crying, whining, blaming everybody else is not the problem. I need to raise my, because he realized that's what did it for him originally. And you know what he did that year? He lifted weights like never in his entire life. He decided he was going to dominate every person, every floor, every place, every spot in the country. He's going to be stronger than anybody. He practiced like he'd never practiced in his life. And oh, by the way, he won how many NBA championships? How many in a row? 3. Retired, came back and won how many in a row? 3. Never anybody in history would even dream of such a thing, especially after retirement. That's the power of raising your standard. But guess who he competes with? Michael told me one time, he goes, Tony, if I competed with other people, I wouldn't be who I am. He said, my competition is with the best I can be. They're trying to compete with me. That's why I beat them. Because they're competing with where I am. But I'm competing with where I can be. Think about that mindset. Think how your life would be different if you raised the standard of what you expected from yourself, not your people, yourself, to that level. How things could shift. It's all about changing your shoulds to musts. It's all about going back and saying, this is how it's going to be. It's like when Gary Vee was here and guys were saying, man, I'm working so hard, man. I work from 9 to 6. He goes, yeah, what are you doing from 8 to 2? 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's when you master your craft. I always say to people, it's what you practice in private that you'll be rewarded for in public. People say, oh my God, you have this great ability, this great skill. They didn't see all the hours. This class, this course, I know tons of this stuff like the back of my hand. But if you talk to my team who's exhausted, they'll tell you we're up to 4 a.m. almost every night. To be able to figure out how to provide for you a life cycle and get it to be real so you can think about Nike and give you accurate information about when did they really get to young adult, when they fall down. We had to make phone calls, read financials, do all kinds of stuff. We did all that stuff. We were doing all these things and we've accomplished so much, and I figured out how to make it even better. That level of commitment is what makes you great at what you do and gives you that little edge that makes you stand out from everybody else. And that standing out is what makes somebody absolutely own an industry or brand themselves like nobody else in the world. That process is what this is about. Raise your standard. When you got to go home, you got to say, where are we going to raise the standard? What am I going to take that's been my should and make it absolute must? Where are we going to do that as a team and how are we going to pull it off? Now, who here has ever, by the way, your income right now is a result of your standards as well. It's not the industry and it's not the economy. Who here is making more money today than you made 10 years ago? Let me see your hands. How many feel like it's not enough today? Let me see your hands. And how could that be? Real estate's so cheap now. Computers are cheaper than they were then. You get so much more for your money. Because once you achieve a level, who knows what happens? You immediately, you close the gap, you create a new gap. That's because that's what makes us grow. Who's want to go back to where you were 10 years ago? Not many. Some of you would be, because it's gotten worse in the last 10 years for you. But the majority, there's no way. See, once you're fortunate enough, if you don't like cleaning house, once you're fortunate enough to have somebody clean your toilets, you will not be doing that again, unless you like that. You'll find somebody who loves cleaning toilets and you'll pay them handsomely. Because now to go back and do that, once you've had the privilege of not having to do that, it's a different game. It's a gross metaphor, but who gets what I'm talking about here? Say I. Once you have a must, you find a way to get to it. Every one of you in this room is earning what you must earn, not a dime more. Don't get me wrong, you might have big goals, big desires, but it's not a must for you. Because even when the economy crunches, if it's a must, you will find the way. How many agree with me on this? Say I. See, when it was a must for me to get at one level, I did. I remember it was a must for me to finally make $1 million a year. I had my son Jarek going to be born. I swore I would never have a child unless I was financially set, and I wasn't financially set. And he was on his way. I went from $38,000 a year to making $1 million a year in the next 12 months. And that was all BS. In my head, I thought all my growing up, all the pain was because my parents fought because there was no money. They would have fought anyway. Because I believed that, though. I raised the standard, made it happen. And then I made $1 million a year for 7 straight years. Even though I built 5 more companies, even though I was helping more people, I made the same amount of money. Guess why? That was my must. At some level above that, seemed greedy. Now, it wasn't like I had this incredible lifestyle. I owned a magical home. I had this place called the Del Mar Castle overlooking the ocean in Del Mar, California. But I was on the road, staying at the Ramada Inn in Milwaukee with shag carpeting and smelly, dead animals on the wall on my birthday. And my maid, she's back at home in the castle going, oh, Mr. Robbins, happy birthday. Oh, I can't help thanking you. It's so wonderful. Oh, Mr. Robbins, it's so beautiful here. I was sitting out in the jacuzzi overlooking the ocean. Oh, yes. Oh, I've lost 22 pounds. I can't tell you. It's been so amazing. I get on your Stairmaster and I watch Oprah. I love your gym, Mr. Robbins. And I'm thinking, she's got a multi-million-dollar lifestyle. How many can relate to this in some way, right? So I went from 38,000 to $1 million because I changed my income. It became an absolute what? It was nothing about money. It was about growing. Because I knew to make more, I'd have to help more people. I'd have to expand. And I came with this goal. I wanted to feed all the people in San Diego that were homeless. First, my goal was 1/3 of the homeless people. And then my goal was everybody. I said, if I can go from 38,000 to $1 million, I should be able to go from $1 million to $3 million in 3 years. And I did it in 12 months. I found the why. I found the reasons. I got a different RPM. But it became a must for me, not a should. You're meeting your must, my friends. Maybe it's time to change your must. Some people's must is to survive. Some people's must is to be okay. Some people's must is to have freedom. Some people's must is to have more than they could possibly spend. Some people's must is take care of everybody around them. Whatever your must is, you're going to get it. When you leave here, get clear on your must. Or raise your what? Step 2, real fast. I'm going to do it real fast. Who here's ever raised the standard and you get out there and you go, I'm going to go do this. And I'm committed. I'm going to change this. I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to lose 50 pounds. I'm going to take my company to the next level. And you're all excited. And then all of a sudden this voice in your head goes, who are you kidding? Who's ever had one of these? Raise your hand. Say I. So once you raise your standard, you got to get certainty behind it. You can sustain it. And that means you got to change your limiting beliefs. You got to change your limiting beliefs. And who has limiting beliefs, by the way? Who? Everyone does. So you got to become aware of it and you got to destroy it. Now, how to do that? Honestly, if you've been to the UPW, you know how. If you haven't, come join me in San Jose or someplace else and come through the experience. When you change your limiting belief, everything changes. Because as you believe, so is it done unto you. If you believe you're right, or you believe you're wrong, you're right. Because whatever you're certain about, you find a way to support it. I always teach people to exercise. Try this. And if you know it, do it fresh. Look in this room real fast for everything that's brown in this room. I'm going to give you a test. What's brown? Quick. Look for brown. Look for brown. Look for brown. Brown hair, brown clothing, brown. Close your eyes. Tell me everything you saw in this room that's red. Raise your hand if you see more brown in your head than red and say I. Open your eyes. Now look for red. 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 Look everywhere for red. Look for red. Raise your hand if you found more red this time. Raise your hand and say I. Why? Because you're looking for it. Because whatever you focus on, you'll find. In fact, you'll find stuff that's not there. How many saw beige, called it brown just to feel successful? How many saw burgundy, called it red just to feel successful? See, once you believe something is a certain way, out of your need for certainty, you'll change things to meet that belief. Let me show you in 2 seconds flat why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. I call it the success cycle. Real fast. Draw yourself 4 squares, put them up on the screen here. You'll see, as we do this, take a quick look. You'll notice you've got the word potential up in the left-hand square. Up in the right-hand square is the word action. Bottom right is the word results. Bottom left is the word belief, or another word for that would be a sense of certainty. Potential, action, belief, results. And notice there's arrows in a clockwise fashion where they just keep feeding each other over and over and over again. So again, it's potential, action, results, belief, or another word for that would be certainty. Now, do you ever notice how rich people tend to get richer and poor people to get poorer? And I don't just mean rich in financial terms. I mean people that are rich emotionally. Do you ever notice how happy people tend to get happier? And depressed people tend to get more depressed? How many found this to be true? Say I. It's because the power of momentum and what I'm about to show you. So let me show you something here. What's the potential of any human being? You tell me, quick. Unlimited. Do most people's results reflect that true potential? Yes or no? No way. Why? Because most people aren't taking enough what? But is it possible to take a lot of action and still get lousy results? What if you got a salesman that works for you and they walk out and they knock on 100 doors and they say, you wouldn't want to buy anything from me, would you? Or they don't say that verbally, but they say it non-verbally. Is that going to affect their results? Yes or no? So it's not enough even to take enough action, because when we believe it's not going to work or we're uncertain, Does that affect how much of our potential we tap? Yes or no? See, if you don't think it's going to work, you're not going to put out a bunch of your energy when you think it's going to fail. And by the way, when you're not sure, you tap little potential. Do you take little or a lot of action? When you're not sure, when you think it's not going to work, you take massive action or little action? Now, when you take little potential with little action, what kind of results do you get? Little lousy results. And when you get lousy results, what does that do to your belief? You go, see, I told you it wasn't going to work. Told you it was a waste of time. And then, by the way, when you have less belief, how much more potential do you take? More or less? If it's possible, you tap less potential, more or less action. Less. And what happens to your results? They get even what? And now they got worse results. What does that do to your belief? And by the way, now you see the current economy. Isn't it true? Everybody out there is going, oh my God, the results are so bad, it's going to get worse in the future. So I better pull in my horns. There's less potential. So I'm not going to push as hard. I'm not going to take much action. Oh my God, I'm getting lousy results with little potential of action. Oh my God, it's going to get worse. That's what creates a recession, depression, whatever you want to call it. How do you change that? By the way, can it work the opposite direction? What would happen if something inside you gave you so much certainty inside of you that you felt absolutely certain that recession was your friend? That the worst economy for you was the greatest time on earth, that all you had to do was manage your state and apply your fundamentals and immerse, stay coached so you don't get off target, keep taking action, and you could own your business and you go to other people's businesses. How many believe that, by the way, now? Say aye. When you have that kind of certainty, are you going to use more of your potential when you go home or less? Which one, my friends? Are you going to take less or more action? When you are certain and you use lots of your potential with massive action, what kind of results do you get? Massive action gets massive results. What kind of belief do you get now when you get better results? You go home, you use your core story. You go home and you take one of these techniques, you get a different response. You go home and you stimulate a new source of profit or income. You go home and you add a service. You go home and do anything. And it works. Your brain goes, yeah, it works. Now, by the way, at Home X, we went in there. Thank God we went in there because they took our stuff and it looked like it wasn't working. Do you remember that? Because some people there didn't want the change to happen. So we had to dig in and find out it was working. We knew you can't take action. You can't sow that seed and reap nothing. So we uncovered what was really going on. You're going to have to watch for the same thing, depending upon the size of your organization. But bottom line, when you get great results, belief gets stronger. Now you're totally certain. Are you going to use more or less potential, my friends? Which one? More. You're going to take even more what? Going to even greater what? Even more certainty. And now what happens to your business? Boom, 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 boom. And now you have a different momentum. And so your economy does not have to reflect the economy. You get to create your economy. You get to decide whether you freeze to death or ski or snowboard. It's winter, but you can have the best time of your life. It could be a sunny, beautiful, magical time. But what you got to do is you got to manage this process. In order to do it, you got to change your limiting beliefs. And this week has been about doing that by giving you so many tools and examples that you'll be immersed. But I promise you when you go home, all this is going to be tested. A, because all the stuff that's waiting for you after being gone for 5 days. B, all the people there you work with, their limiting beliefs, whether you have one employee or two because you're an army of one or two people, or whether you got 10,000. And so you have to be able to implement. This, by the way, is, I'm not here to sell you, bring us in if we can help. Do you think we could help? Yes or no? Yes or no? Bring us in and we'll do it. Or get your team together and find a way to make sure this momentum goes in the right direction. Make sense? Yes. This is the must. If you have this high standard, but you don't really believe because the momentum's in the wrong direction, having the tools will be worthless. That's where certainty. That's where everything else we teach, that's what I do in my events, that's where you guys have been there before, that's what you got to bring to the table. What are the 5 keys for integrating this? Number 1, you got to go home and raise your what? Come on, guys, raise your what? Which means turn your shoulds into. Step number 2, you got to go out and change your limiting what? Find anything that's limiting you and destroy it. What's the fastest way to destroy it? You can do it very quickly by producing the results in your mind over and over again. Or, why do you think I get people to walk on fire? Because they think it's impossible. When they walk in this fire, mentally you might say, oh, I can do it. But when they get in front of that fire and it's 2,000 degrees burning hot coals, it gets their full attention. and suddenly they have a state change. And when you get yourself in a state where you can storm through fire, it's not about firewalking. The state you're in to get yourself to walk across fire is the metaphor for anything that used to stop you, the fire of your life. And by the way, when you cross fire and you're on the other side doing something you once thought was difficult or impossible, it's that easy, your brain goes, what else can I do that I thought was impossible? It's unbelievable. It's not intellectual, it's emotional. Plus, after firewalking, cold calling is not a problem. You get the idea, ladies and gentlemen? All right? So what we're really talking about here is changing your beliefs. Now, here's the third key. If you're going to get maximum results, you got to model what works. We brought you for 5 days and nights here, models of what works. Go back and get them. Now, here's where the challenge is. How many got tons to do in your normal list of things to do when you go home? How many got a lot to do? Say aye. How many have a lot of outcomes you got to go after? Say aye. How many have the same amount of time you had before? Say aye. So in your business, if you need something to get done, you get it done because it's an absolute what? Or you hire someone to get it done. Hire us, hire someone else, get somebody inside. But are these things you're going home with musts or shoulds? Which one? Do whatever it takes. You say, I don't have the money. You don't have the money not to. Forget us. Hire somebody as an individual who knows what they're doing and put them in there. Leverage yourself. The only way you're going to get the game bigger is by taking a little bit of what, my friends? Risk, but that means get yourself some resources. Be resourceful enough to get the resources. What's great about this? What is this opening? What is this creating? What's possible? What have I not seen? This is going to make me see. What have I learned from this? What can I learn from this? What am I willing to do to still have it the way I want it? That's the fourth step. You intensify, and you innovate. And then there's a final fifth step. And that fifth step's really simple, my friends. And that is step up and give. Step up and give more than anyone else could possibly expect. The ultimate transformation happens when you stop trying to get and you start to give. Whenever you're at your best, you're giving. I remember so vividly driving in my car, my Volkswagen Bug, and I was struggling, and I was 19 years old. I was driving on a freeway in San Gabriel Valley, the 210 freeway, I'll never forget. And it's midnight, and I'm frustrated. I felt like I tried everything, and I had these big hits, like the one you just saw, and nothing was going my way, and I was frustrated, and I kept thinking, how come I'm not getting what I want? And all of a sudden, it just hit me on the freeway. I pulled over the side. It was almost midnight, no cars really around, grabbed my journal, and I wrote, I still have the journal to this day from when I was 19 years old, full page, and I wrote, the secret to living is giving. And I realized why I wasn't doing well. Because I all focused about what I wasn't getting. I was not focused on what I was not giving. And the whole game changed. So my invitation to you is really simple. You can get free of suffering, but in order to do it, you got to realize it's all your expectations that make you suffer. I'll give you one quick example. I'm fortunate enough, like Mark, I have my own plane, so I can fly, anywhere in the world, and I traveled this last year to 16 countries, so it's a great privilege to have a bed and go straight to China nonstop. Unbelievable. But most of my life, I took commercial aircraft. And after a while, I started chartering in the U.S., but going overseas was too expensive, so I didn't do that. So I found half my time I was on an airplane. About every 4 days, I was on an airplane or on stage, one of the two. Pretty intense life. So interesting enough, in those days, I go 3 times a year to Australia. I still do, but in those days, commercially, and I get on Qantas Airlines on a flight here in San Francisco or LA in those days, and it's a 14-hour flight, and there was just one problem. 31 companies. In those days, it was like 24 companies or 15 companies. I got all these people I'm responsible for. I'm a committed guy. And how am I connected 24/7, right? We all know what it is. It's all these tools that we develop, all this technology. But I was used to domestically, you got connection to the internet, even while you're flying. But you get on that 14-hour flight, death, no technology, no web. And I was like so frustrated. Why do they do this? These 14 hours, they can be so productive. Oh my God. Who knows what I'm talking about here? Get a sense of what I'm talking about. So what happens? One day after years of going through this, before I had my own plane, I'm on this flight, and Qantas Airlines announces we're about to take off. Guess what? We can now proudly tell you we now have international internet. And it was like people cheered. Some people stood up in the aisles and clapped. I didn't, but I felt like doing it. It was just like, this is incredible. It's like God descended into the building. We have internet. We got Instagram. We got Facebook. We got email. This is the most amazing thing. And then what do you think happened within 15 minutes? What do you think happened? Tell me. Come on. It broke down. And when do you think it worked again? Never. 14 hours without it, and people are like, this is bullshit. I can't believe this crap. I'm not putting up with it. 15 minutes earlier, it was a miracle. Now it's already an expectation. Write this down. If you want to change your life, trade your expectations for appreciation, and your whole life will change in that moment. Trade your expectations for appreciation, and your whole life will change in that moment. If you are suffering, there's only one reason. Things aren't meeting your expectations. What are the chances of everyone in your life meeting your expectations for the rest of your life? What are they? What are your expectations that God or the universe will meet your expectations every moment? See, I'd like you. Are you married, sir? Is she here? Oh, she's with your twins. How beautiful. Congratulations. I would never want to see you have any pain if I could ever avoid it, if I could do anything about it, but I'm not God. So I can do something different since I'm not God. I can get you to consider something that if you did it would give you freedom. It would be an absolute commitment in yourself to say, life is too short to suffer. God has given me this creation, and I'm going to love every moment. I'm going to find ecstasy every moment of my children, even when they do crazy shit, even when they're rugrats. I'm going to have it with my wife, even when she doesn't seem to be listening to me or my husband isn't. I'm going to do it even if she left me. I can't control her leaving you. But I can control one thing. You can make the decision that you are going to find beauty in everything in life, and you're going to learn from everything in life, and that is the only way you'll be out of suffering. Otherwise, it won't matter how much money you make, it won't matter how many people love you, it doesn't matter how many great kids you have. Are there going to be disasters and challenges for all of us, yes or no? Yes or no? All of us, I don't care how rich you are financially, I don't care how smart you are, I don't know if you have an IQ of a genius, I don't care if you've got the biggest company in the world. Every person in the room is going to experience extreme stress in your future. Everyone here will have something, a robbery, a house that burns down, an earthquake, somebody that cheats you, somebody steals money from you, somebody you totally trusted and then they screw you over, somebody that betrays you. Aren't you glad you came to this positive seminar? See, you thought it was Mr. Positive Thinking. You're so wrong. See, I'm a realist. I don't believe, I'm not stupid. I don't think that everybody, I know that most people are not fit and healthy. Most people around the world do not have a relationship where they're totally passionate. Most people do not love their work. True or false? But a few do. I'm interested in the few who do versus the many who talk. I'm interested in the few that live the beautiful states versus the masses that suffer. And I also know that anyone can end that suffering in a moment if you make the decision that says, I have decided from this day forward, I'm going to find beauty in everything by being in a beautiful state. And that means if you start to suffer, by the way, you're going to suffer. We all do. Because this brain is 2 million years old, and it's going to keep acting. It's going to keep looking what's wrong. But the difference is when it comes in, if you've made the decision, you'll start to suffer, and I created for myself a 90-second rule. I got 90 seconds, get this shit out of me. In those 90 seconds, I figure out what it is, and I know how to stop suffering. I'm suffering because I'm having an expectation that's not being met. And while I think it's life and death, it's just my preference. It's my preference that you guys had more energy than we started. It's my preference that you'd have a great time. It's my preference that my kids would do everything I want them to do. It's my preference that all my employees across all these companies will do all the right things every day. God will laugh at your preferences. And what I found is I have my preferences, which are wonderful, but I'm still going to live in a beautiful state because life is precious. Hey, what if you were God? And you come down and you talk to one of your creations and you say, how's it doing down here? How's it going down here on earth? What do you think? And a person that you're talking to that you created goes, well, God, I mean, you could have done a better job. I mean, come on. Why'd you make it so frickin' foggy here in San Francisco? I couldn't land my plane the other day. And why wouldn't you go planes that could cut through the fog? I mean, you're God. And why did you make all these irritating people? You know, I had so many irritating people. They try to stop me from doing things. And, you know, and also it's just like, why didn't you just make me rich? Why do I have to work? And besides that, you even got these little ants. You know those little red ants? They're like this small, and they bite the shit out of me. Why would you create those for me? If you heard all this bitching and you were God, would you want to hang out with this person? If you were God, you might, you know, say, I don't know. What if you go to somebody else, you go, what do you think? One of your other creations. And that person says, God, you're amazing. This is the most beautiful place on earth. This is heaven. This is extraordinary. I mean, there's so many different kinds of people, and they challenge me in so many different ways. I have to grow to understand them and understand myself. And you make the fog, and you make the sun, and it's always changing, so I'm never bored. And you make these little red ants. Damn, they're courageous. I'm 10,000 times their size, and they'll bite my ass. That's pretty cool. Who would you want to spend time with? The first person or the second one if you were God? Which one? So if you're not experiencing God, perhaps you're bitching too much. Perhaps it's not God, perhaps it's you, and you're whining and you're suffering. So I want to finish with this. If you want to stop suffering, first, you got to know how you suffer and recognize and be honest. Second, you can't tolerate. We all get what we tolerate. So you have to make the decision. I'm going to be in a beautiful state the rest of my life. Doesn't have to be happy. It could be determined. It could be curious. It could be committed. It could be energized. It could be grateful. It could be loving. It could be happy. It could be any of these. But I am going to be that every day because I'm capable. And I've shown you early you are, because how fast can you change your state, my friends? How fast? Come on, guys, how fast? If you stop using your mind and you use your body and your heart, your spirit, that's what will put you there. The mind won't keep you there. It might get you there for when things go your way, your mind will feel happy. But what happens when they don't? I was talking to a man the other day, and he was telling me all about his company, and he lost the company, built it up, and it was $1 billion company. And then, you know, the venture capitalist guys voted him out of his own company. I said, welcome to Steve Jobs' world. And then he told me this new company he's creating, but he doesn't want to put it in, so he's afraid of getting hurt again. I said, you lost that company for a reason. Perhaps it's so you can build this company, which is going to save people's health. What if you and we stop the suffering by having one new belief? Here's what I believe in my soul. Life is always happening for us, never to us. We think it's happening to us because of our minds, but it's all happening for us. Even the pain, even the disappointment, even the problems. If my mother had been the mother I'd wanted, I would not be here today. I would not be. If my father had not left, I would not feed 1 billion people, much less 100 million, much less 1,000. Maybe life isn't always about getting your preferences. Maybe life is about you becoming more. And when you do, you feel more alive and you have more to give, and that's the purpose of life. Because when we're giving, we're outside of ourselves. There's no suffering when we're giving. In fact, when you're most happy and excited about something, what's the first thing you want to do? How many of you, the minute something great happens, you want to share it with somebody you love? Raise your hand if that's what you want to do. Say, I. Why? Because when you share it, there's only so much you can feel inside. Even if it's sex or rock and roll, love, drugs, whatever you think is going to make float your boat, money. You can only feel so much. But when you share it, it multiplies. So here's the antidote to suffering. Identify your favorite flavor. Make the decision that says, I will not suffer. I'm going to live in a beautiful state no matter. What if it rains on your parade? What if your best friend screws you over? What if somebody yells at you? What if you get humiliated? What if you go broke? What if you lose your job? Could you still be happy, yes or no? Are there people who've lost arms, legs, been blinded, lost their family, and they're still loving and happy and beautiful, yes or no? And they aren't just Mother Teresa, they're not just Nelson Mandela, they're any human being that decides to live where it's not about themselves. Sisters, I love you so much. The reason I want to support you, the reason you made those prayers that I decided I was going to fulfill those for you is because you don't just feed people. You love people, people that no one else, people have forgotten. And you're there every day and you ask for nothing. And I know that's why you're fulfilled. And I honor you both. I love you. The best way to end suffering is kill the monster while it's little. Don't wait till it's Godzilla eating your whole city in life. If you turn yourself and train yourself to do it. And by the way, I did this 1.5 years ago. And to give you an idea, what happened was I felt the most joy I've ever felt in my life, and then I had 3 incidences. And you understand how I entered the room. I've been on stage for 39 years, working with 50 million people. I give my all every day. This is easy. This is 3 hours. My average seminar is 50 hours. My stress here is 3 hours. Because I don't like to talk, I like to go deep, as you might gather. And I like to condition it where we get up and do things. There's only so much time. And those 50 hours, I go full tilt. And I've been doing that for 39 years, and I clap like a crazy man. I jump much more intensely in here because I'm toning it down for you guys because you think I'm crazy when I first come in, especially when you guys started with your energy. I look like a maniac. But what I found in that time is doing that, hammering like that, it damaged the nerves in my arms, and so all of a sudden I couldn't sleep on my side, which I've done my whole life. No big deal. I'll sleep on my back. It's painful. Who cares? I manage pain. Every great athlete does that. Every good person does that. But then my wife was freaking out saying, honey, you're choking, you're not breathing. And I was exhausted, and I went in and did a sleep study and found I had sleep apnea. But it was extreme. In 17 minutes, I stopped breathing 18 times. That doesn't make for very much rest. That doesn't make for health. So now I have this really sexy device. It's called a sleep app. You stick it on your face. It's a mask, and it pours oxygen in. You will get girls with this shit, I promise you. But they'll be in the hospital, the girls that you'll get, right? And so I'm like, I can't believe this. I'm breathing through this breather now because of these nerves. And then I'm kind of crazy. I'm snowboarding, and I rip 3 rotator cuffs. Not a problem. It's painful. I'll get it worked. But then the pain won't go away, and the pain becomes nerve pain that's shooting so bad. I know how to deal with pain. But on a 0 to 10, 9.9. And it's so severe I can't sleep. I'm in so much pain. And I don't want to do surgery. And the surgeon says, well, it's in your spine. He comes in and tells me it's not just your rotator cuffs. You have something called spinal stenosis where it's tightening around your spine and crushing the nerves. And there really isn't a solution. We can do surgery, but it's no guarantee, and there's side effects. And the guy, by the way, first tells me, oh, I've been to your business mastery program. I'm making $1.2 million more a year. And I went to this other He's telling me, you changed my life. And he goes, now I got to tell you, I'm your doctor. I'm going to show you something. Your life is over. That was his bedside manner. I had not trained him, obviously, in these communication tools. And he told me, I can't snowboard, I can't play racquetball, squash, I can't jump around, I can't do this stuff, but I don't accept that. I was told I had a tumor in my brain when I was 32. It's still there, and I'm fine. I didn't treat it, I'm fine. It gave me massive growth. I was 5'1" in high school. I'm 6'7". I tell people the difference is personal growth. I had growth hormone that exploded me up. I still have the tumor, I didn't grow, so I didn't accept this diagnosis. I didn't say it wasn't there, I just said I won't accept there's nothing to be done. In the world we're in today, you can find answers. And so I pushed, and I know some of the best doctors around the world, and I found a doctor in Australia who said to me, Tony, we can do this. You sent me MRIs of people with similar situations, and the way they solve it is with 100 hours of hyperbaric oxygen, where you go inside a coffin, and they make it so pressured, about 65 feet below the ocean pressure, and they fill you with oxygen, and it releases the 800% more stem cells, and it starts to heal. And he says to me, though, before you come all the way to Australia, which is where he is, go do these blood tests so I can see what's happening to your blood, how much inflammation you have, what's going on. And I said, okay, and I went and did it, and when I was there, the guy who was doing the blood said, you want to do a metals test? I said, you mean like mercury? I said, oh, I had my amalgams out 25 years ago. He goes, well, we do lead and we do aluminum. I said, all right, let's do it. And then the doctor calls me 2 weeks later every single day. And I'm busy, so I said, send me the report. He goes, I must speak to you on message. So I call him up, and he said, you should be in the hospital right now. I said, what? He said, you have the highest level of mercury we've ever measured here in the United States. We measure on a 0 to 5 scale. If you're 3 or above, your body's so toxic, you can die. You can have a heart attack, you can have a stroke. You are 123. He said, the highest I've ever measured is 76. I said, that's impossible. How could that be? He said, we can tell by the type of mercury it's fish. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so intense in my life that I've made my diet really simple. It's salad, veggies, and fish. And the 2 fish I always had, and I'm telling you this, is swordfish, which I loved, and tuna. They are 75-year-old living fish, and they eat all the smaller fish, and they have 1,000 times more mercury today, but no one tells you this because the fishing industry would be ended if you knew it. So, and 2 other doctors looked at it, and one of the doctors said, how long's he been in the hospital? And I just got off stage in a 50-hour seminar, 50, over 4 days. And I was like, no wonder I'm exhausted, because it destroys your mitochondria, which creates ATP, which creates energy. I'm thinking, I'm just exhausted because I'm working so hard. And then I was also losing my memory. And then I've always sweat, but sweat like I did when I first ran on stage here. Because if I start running, all of a sudden my body has to work so hard, it's pushing to keep going. I would be dead today if I had not torn my rotator cuffs, if I had not hurt my spine, if I had not been in a position where I'd hurt my arm so bad I can't sleep on my side and had to put a sleep app on. Life is always happening for us, not to us, even when it doesn't look that way. It's our job to find the benefit. And I'm telling you this now for another reason, which is please go get your metals test, because the world we're in today is so toxic that out of 12 of my friends that I told this in the first few weeks, 6 of them all had poisoning. And they thought they were just exhausted or tired or frustrated. Lots of people get diagnosed with dementia. I find myself on stage, it's happened once or twice here, hopefully you didn't notice, but I can tell you now where I thought, where the hell am I? And I've never had that in my life. I do 50 hours without missing a beat. And it's changing. I don't have a script. I'm looking at you, I'm feeling, I'm responding. But I go like, why am I telling you this story? But all that'll come back when it's gone. I'm down to 18 from 123. It's taken me 9 months to do it. I'm not there yet, but I'm almost there. Thank you very much. So if you're watching somewhere else in the world, you're here, go get a metals test. And if you do, and you've got this in your body, get it out. There's a man named Dr. Shane. He's one of the best metals guys in the world. You can find him on the web. He's made a giant difference for me. And I'm going to get those things back. But I wouldn't have got them back unless all these horrible things have happened. I just give it to you as a metaphor for what you think is your worst day could be your best day. But it requires some faith. Faith that there's a higher purpose in everything that happens in our lives and making ourselves look for it. So I want to finish by showing you how to end suffering in 2 minutes. There are many ways. I don't have any more time. I'm out of time. You've been so gracious. I hope this has been touching for you. I hope it's made you think. Who here has decided in your gut suffering ends here tonight? I'm curious. Not all of you are going to do it. Who really is going to do this? Say I. Then I want to ask you to do 2 things. I want you to ask you to send me a note, and you can send the note to, I'll have my team put it up there. It's an email. They'll throw it up there. I don't know what the name of it is, quite honestly. I would love to hear your commitment and why, and then I'd love to have you copy that to 2 people you respect, 2 people you love, because if you do that, they're going to know why you're going to do this, why you want to live this beautiful state every day, why you'll do it no matter what, even if it doesn't. That ends suffering now at TonyRobbins.com. And I would love to hear your story of what you're going to do. It's why I came by here. I'll be inspired by it, but more importantly, you'll be making a commitment. I'm nobody. But if you commit by telling me and a couple other people that matter, you might also inspire them to consider the possibility. I wish I could go deeper on the subject, but what I want to give you is a tool. Because if you make the decision, then you're going to come up with suffering. How do you end it? By the way, when I say 90-second rule, in the beginning, it should have been a 4-hour rule. Maybe a few years ago, it should have been a 4-week rule. But now, once I've done it over and over again, just like getting in state, it becomes a habit, and now you can do it so easily, and the freedom you'll feel will be amazing. But let's finish by showing you how to do it, and I'll do it with a real experience for you. Stand up. Shake your body out. Before we do anything else, let's crank the energy so we're high level to do this. I want you to face the party and go, I own ya! No, I own you! I want you to outdo their energy for 20 seconds, and I want you on a 0 to 10 to go to level 20. So 10 feels like it would be relaxing. Let's clap, and then we'll jump. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go! Before we leave, let me make 2 announcements, and after this we'll go. We'll do our end suffering. If you'd like to help someone else end suffering, join me. Spend $10, let me double it. Or 100, let me double it. Whatever good you do, I'll double. Up to 5 million. Feeding America, go to feedingamerica.com. You can do it. Or, how many found tonight to be profound you'd like to continue this kind of feeling? Say, I. If you want to get something that'll support you long term, I have a digital product. It's called The Ultimate Edge. Probably saw it years ago. It's been updated. It's $300. If you want to get it, it's $200 if you do it now, but I'll do it 100% of the profits to another organization that I'd love to make a difference with. And it's an organization that frees people that are trafficked. It's specifically young boys and young girls that are in sexual slavery. And the organization is called Underground Railroad. They're extraordinary. I'll give every penny that you invest in yourself, those $200, do it. It'll take about 18 of you to free 1 child. What would it be like? I've freed 200 in the last 2 weeks. I'd love to free another 100 in partnership with you while you change your life. So if you want to do that, you can go to, show them the text where they can go, flip it up there real fast, you can take a picture. That would be a good time. Hello. There it is. So if you text Dreamforce, the ultimate edge, at 44222, you'll receive it. If you do it within the next 48 hours, I'll donate 100% of it. You'll get to the benefit of changing your life. And the last thing is, if you'd like to come to a real seminar instead of 3 hours and an environment where everybody is primed for this kind of experience, I'm coming here to San Francisco, coming up here in November, 10th to the 12th. And if you also text or go to my organization there, they'll give you $100 off if you want to go. I'm going to feed 1 million people in San Francisco, by the way, that week here in November. That's going to be my gift out of that event as well. So it's something we can all do together. If you'd like, just reach out and do it. Those are ways you can continue the journey if you want to. I've given you a book. I hope it's helpful for you on the financial side. If you want a second opinion, go to secondopinion.com. That's it. Let me now do the final piece. Shake your body out. Here's what I want you to do. Think of a place where you have suffered. Frustration, overwhelm, anger, sadness, feeling not enough, something. And what if there was a quick way to end it? Here's how that can be done in a matter of moments. First, you only suffer because of what you focus on, and you're focusing on one of 3 things. 3 words you want to remember going forward: loss, less, or never. If you're suffering, it's because your brain believes because you did something to me, or the government did, or the company did, or the other employee did, or I did something, or because you didn't do something, or I didn't do something, I have lost something. Lost love, lost time, lost energy, lost respect, lost significance, lost anything. The illusion of loss makes us suffer. All you've lost was your expectations weren't met. Because there's no guarantee in life. Could we walk across the street and get by a car? Of course we can. That's loss. Everything else is an illusion. It just means your preferences weren't met. The second thing that'll make you suffer is if you think something you did or didn't do, or something someone else did or didn't do, cause you have less of something you value. Less love, less joy, less time, less energy, less acknowledgement. If you feel like you have less, you will suffer. And the third one, and the worst one, is if your brain starts believing that you failed to do something, I failed to do something, or you did something, or I did something, that means I will never have that love, have that joy, have that success, have that acknowledgement, have that freedom. When our brain believes we've lost, or we have less, or we'll never, we suffer. And all those are illusion. The way you get out of it is really simple. You're never going to go from suffering to joy. It's too big a jump. So you go from suffering to appreciating something. How many of you, no matter how bad your life is, there's something you can appreciate? Your health, your children, your life, the country you live in. How many got something you can appreciate? Say I. Is there something you can appreciate in every moment, even in the worst moments you've been in? Yes or no? Yes or no? And if you're so smart, which I know you are, you should be easily find those things. All it is you decide, I'm not going to suffer, so when I feel it, within 90 seconds, I figured out what it is. I don't live there. I find something to appreciate. I find something next to enjoy. Second step, once you appreciate and enjoy, I want to learn from this. What can I learn? What can I grow? If in the middle of that problem you learn from that relationship, then it's not a bad ending of a relationship anymore. If you grow from it, you're going to feel alive. And thirdly, third step, after appreciate and enjoy, learn and grow, throw it up. If you do anything loving, if you give anything, if you're grateful, your suffering will end. Are there people that have been in concentration camps that were able to end suffering even though there was physical pain? Yes or no? What I learned through all this pain in my body was there's pain and there's suffering. You want to know the difference? Pain is that shock feeling of pressure and tension running up my spine. Suffering is, why did this happen to me? Will I ever be able to do this again? Can I ever get back on stage? How long will this last? The story is the suffering. It's easy to deal with pain. It's the suffering that makes it so hard. Raise your hand if you follow what I'm talking about here. Say I. So I'm going to give you one technique right now. We'll do it really fast so you know it works. Shake your body out. In fact, right now, develop a quick pattern. I want you to make a move that if you made that move, you feel strong instantly. Just try something. Make a strong move of some sort. Make a move. Make your move. Make your move. Make a sound when you just shout the word yes when you make your move. Make your move. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. Now here's what I want you to do. How many of you have a situation either at home or in your work environment where there's some unfinished business, where there's a situation with a person or a situation that you need to handle, and it's stressful inside when you think about it, so you try not to think about it, you do other stuff. But it's got to be handled, and you've not handled it. How many got an area where there's some suffering like that? Raise your hand nice and high. Let me see. Virtually everybody. Good. Think of that situation that really bugs you and really think about how it really feels if you really let yourself focus on it. And feel what that suffering would be like. And I want you to pick something that on a scale from 0 to 10, where 10 is total suffer and 0 is no suffering at all, that's in the 8 or above range at least. 7, 8, 9, 10. Don't pick a little one because you won't notice in this quick moment enough for you to feel. I want you to feel a difference. How many got something that needs to be handled, you've not resolved it, you're either pissed off or you feel hurt or you feel worried or you're concerned and you've not handled it and you put it off and it needs to be handled? Raise your hand if you got, and the pain of it is, if you focus on it, is 7, 8, 9, or 10. Let me see your hands. Awesome. Here's what I want to show you. A group of scientists discovered something about 20 years ago that's amazing. If I measure your brain waves and your heart waves, your EEG and your EKG, you've probably seen them on, on medical pieces. They look very jagged when you're stressed. They don't look anything alike. Your brain waves and your heart waves. But if all you do is put both your hands on your heart, try it now, and you physically feel your heart. See the example I'm giving you? So this is frustration. You can see they look nothing like each other.
Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion.
I had no money. I had a 1960 Volkswagen I worked $40 a week as a janitor to buy and pay for.
This is the greatest time to be alive if you're growing, you're learning, you're educating, and you're developing valuable skills.
Want to soar? Get a mentor. What's up, Believe Nation? It's Evan. My one word is believe, and this channel is designed to be a part of your daily success routine. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Tony Robbins, and some of his best life-changing advice. Mentor me, Tony. Also, if you want to know what Tony and other successful entrepreneurs have to say about building unstoppable confidence, check out my 254 Confidence series, where every day for the next 254 days, I will send you a morning video for free to help you build your confidence. The link to join is in the description below.
The fact that human beings, our strongest drive is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves.
So while you're in this passionate state, that's where you make decisions. So if you want to change your life, my friends, you got to change your physiology and you got to change your focus.
Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Change your story.
When something is considered quote unquote impossible, how do you reframe it so it becomes possible in your mind? And how much of that is mindset?
Well, I think impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. When someone tells me it's impossible, I always just look at them. Anybody around me knows that they can't do that. So that's part of it. But if they didn't know me, it's your opinion. And they'll say, no, science shows. And I say, yeah, and how many times has science showed something's impossible? Now science shows it's possible. Things are impossible until somebody does it. And so I find that, most of your business people, you look at businesses and what does it take to make a business grow? It's not impossible to make a business grow. A business has been shrinking for a long time, or it's been stuck. The real problem is always, the chokehold is always the psychology and the skills of the leader. Always. And 80% of that is psychology and 20% is the mechanics. Like if you don't know how to read your financials and you're trying to fly the plane of your company, I mean, come on. If all you do is go down, you look at profit and loss and you see what it is and you have a beer, either way, you either celebrate or you get depressed, something, you're gonna be in trouble, right? But if you have the skill sets, that's one thing. But you can get any skill set if you have the psychology. And anytime a business is not growing, it is not because it's impossible. It's because they aren't innovating, and they're not innovating because they're believing it's impossible. I mean, if we all know what does it take to transform, and obviously I tell people it takes 3 things to create a breakthrough in anything, in your personal life, in your business, anywhere. You need a strategy. But that's not the first place you should look, and it's the first place all of us look. Me too. It's our inherent thing. You want to lose weight? Well, how do I do it? I want to grow my business? How do I do it? It's instinctive. We've been trained to think that way. But the problem is the how-to is usually not that complex. I mean, come on. 70% of America is 75% of America now is overweight. Is that because it's so complex how to be fit and strong, right? Only the 1% know the answers. They hide it from you. You have to work your ass off to not hear what it takes, right? And so I remember I went to a TED Med Center, and I watched about 12 doctors, one after another, get up and do these stories about how we could just get patients to take their medications and try to figure out the whole thing. And I was just looking and going, you're all talking about strategy and you've forgotten psychology. Because strategy is wonderful. I'm a strategist. I spent my whole life figuring out strategies. As we both know, a strategy could save you a decade, right? In business, strategy could save you, it could make the difference between success and failure. But most people have strategies available, or they could get them, or you could create them. But the problem is you got a story. And your story is why it isn't working. And the story is, I've tried what? What? Everything. If you tried everything, you'd be fit, right? If you tried everything, you'd be profitable. If you tried everything, you'd be there. But people say it, I'm big boned. That's what I used to say. I'm still big boned, but I'm 38 pounds lighter than I was 25 years ago, and I've never gained it back, right? When I was big boned, that was my story. All the good ones are gone. That's why I'm not in a relationship. Or they're gay and I'm not, or I'm gay and they are, or whatever the story is. There's always a story. And what I tell people is, if you can just divorce the story of your limitation and marry the truth of your unlimited capacity, then the whole game changes.
Rule number 2, feed your mind with greatness.
So what do you think was the first real breakthrough that you had as a teen that started you on your path, and how did you get there?
Gosh, there's so many. One of the first ones, I think, was probably just anchoring me in when my mom and my dad, I had 4 different fathers. My mom was a powerful woman, so she kicked my 4th father out, whose name I carry, and he adopted me. And when he went out, she decided it wasn't his side, so she kicked me out too by chasing me out with a knife. And I wasn't worried she was going to stab me or anything, but I decided this is freedom, and I've got to find a way to make my life work. But I had no money. I had a 1960 Volkswagen I worked $40 a week as a janitor to buy and pay for, and so I had no car, I had no money, I had no anything. I went and slept in a person's laundry room, and then I decided I've got to figure out what to do, and I needed to feed my mind because I was so depressed, I was so overwhelmed, I'm missing my brother and sister and feeling just completely out of sorts. So I got on a bus and I traveled 14 miles, I remember, because I ended up running it one time, and I went to this bookstore and I bought this book called The Magic of Believing by Claudia Bristol. It's the first real book other than maybe Think and Grow Rich or Emerson's essays. And I started on this journey of saying, every single day, I'm going to feed my mind. I'm not going to hope good thoughts show up. I'm going to read biographies. I'm going to find out what makes people tick. I'm going to understand what makes me tick. And I wanted to read a book a day, but I didn't do that. I took a speed reading class, and I read 700 books over 7 years. And they were all personal development, human development, psychology, physiology. And then what I try to do is take anything that I learned and apply it. And then when I applied it, I was 5'1" in my sophomore year in high school. I'm 6'7" now. I tell people the difference is personal growth. Really. But sincerely, I became Mr. Solution because I wanted to help everybody. So I was this little fat guy, and I couldn't lose weight, and I lost weight. And all my buddies are like, how'd you do that? And I said, well, here's what I did. And they lost weight, and then we all got girls. And that led to, as a young kid, that led to where, if you had a problem, I was Mr. Solution. Especially if you're a girl, I was more motivated to help you. So the breakthrough was really understanding the power of compressing decades into days. And if someone has spent decades of their life and they compress it into a book, and you can read it in an hour or a few days, you have such an advantage, because when you learn by your own experience, it's painful and it's slow. When you learn by other people's experience, everybody knows in the financial world, other people's money is leverage, right? Well, other people's experience is more powerful than other people's money, because you can have the money and lose it. But if you get the experience, you can change it all. So I think that was the beginning for me, and it set me on a lifelong path of hunger. I've never lost my hunger.
Rule number 3, constantly improve yourself.
You can't have a standard education and expect to have an extraordinary life. It's not going to happen. The one breakthrough for all leaders is constant, never-ending improvement. And that means educating yourself and continuing to develop even greater emotional mastery, because that's what affects whether you execute or not. The opportunity for self-education is there. We have to change our psychology from, I'm going to do what everybody else does, and I'm mad because it doesn't work anymore, to the reality is this is the greatest time to be alive if you're growing, you're learning, you're educating, and you're developing valuable skills. So instead of complaining, you got to say, where are the skill sets valued in the marketplace? And how do I work harder on myself
than anything else, because if I become more valuable, then I will be able to give more, do more, and change more. When I interviewed Warren Buffett, I asked the most important investment he ever made in his life. You know what he said it was? I was thinking all the companies he'd done, He said, Tony, go into Dale Carnegie. I said, what? He goes, because by developing myself, that's the most important investment. Those skill sets, learning how to persuade, learning how to speak, learning how to influence, all my ideas would have died on my lips if I hadn't been able to influence, and I learned it from that little course. Most valuable thing I ever did in my life, he said.
Rule number 4, learn to execute.
You get on an airplane, what's the first thing they say? If we get into trouble, mask will come down, oxygen's there, and the first thing you got to do is put it on your kid, right? No, why? Who do they tell you to put it on? Yourself, you selfish bastard. What's the deal here, right? But it's because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of them. So for leaders, what I always tell them is, it's you first. It starts with you, and it starts with your psychology. 80% of growing a business, if you look at what the chokehold is on a business, it's always the leader. And 80% of that chokehold is the psychology, and 20% is the mechanics. I mean, people in this room know the mechanics and strategies beyond what anybody on earth knows in their category. So it's really about you being in the state where you execute. It's like I always tell people, knowledge is not power, it's total BS. Knowledge is potential power. Execution trumps knowledge every day of the week. And so my life is, how do you get yourself to execute? And execution comes from learning to put yourself in that right state every day.
Rule number 5, be hungry.
I'd say the number one common thread of anybody that I work with is successful. Financial, athletes, people in politics, it's hunger. You and I both know intelligence is a pretty damn valuable tool, but there are a lot of very smart people who can't fight their way out of a paper bag. And then when you find somebody who has that hunger, the hunger that doesn't go away, that hunger to be more, to do more, to give more, that hunger that never ends, that's how you get these people that are the best in the world at whatever they do. And so if you can, I think everybody has that hunger, but for some people, it's been asleep for a long time because they're afraid. They're afraid that I'm going to get hungry, I'm going to try, I'm going to fail. And so it's human nature to protect yourself from the fear by just lowering your expectations. But one of the things I've learned is you get what you tolerate. You get what you tolerate in yourself, you get what you tolerate in your life, and sooner or later, we sometimes hit a point where we say, not another day, not another hour, this is done. I'm not walking this way, I'm not talking this way, I'm not living this way, I'm not going to be in this relationship anymore, I'm going to change it. And when people do that, that's the beginning of a breakthrough.
Rule number 6, discipline your mind.
These thoughts that we have, we think they're our thoughts, so it makes it really hard to change them. When people meditate and try to not think thoughts, show me somebody that's done that successfully, consistently. They're full of shit. Okay? Everybody, the mind thinks thoughts. But here's the distinction. If I told you 100 years ago we were going to fly to the moon and back, you would have called me a lunatic. That's where the term comes from. And people still use it, and it doesn't make any sense because a lunatic is somebody who thought we go to the moon and back and we've done it, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where the term comes from.
That's
where it comes from. But if I would have told you 100 years ago that there's going to be a box in your pocket and you're going to pull this thing out, you're going to hit a couple buttons, and then it's going to capture invisible waves that are drifting around the earth and bring the waves in, and you're going to see somebody on the other side of the earth and you're going to talk to them, you're totally nuts. Thoughts are those invisible waves. And when you use your body in a certain way, if I sit like this, I'm going to tap into a different channel of those waves than if I'm sitting like this. Kind of like a TV set. If I turn one channel, it might be a comedy channel. I'm going to see a lot of laughter. Turn another one, it's a horror channel. Turn another channel, it's a romance channel. This is what changes which of those waves you touch in. So if you can start to realize that your thoughts that you think are your thoughts, there's nothing unique about your thoughts. They've been around for thousands of years. You're just tapping into them because of what you're doing with your body that makes you either fearful or passionate or courageous or whatever you're feeling. As you go in those states, you get different thoughts. So what I want people to see is that learn how to just see those thoughts go by. Learn how to be entertained by those thoughts. Because I have crazy thoughts, but what I've gotten good at is going, look at that crazy thought. That's not me, that's the mind, not your mind. Because if it's you, how do you change you? Pretty hard. But I really, truly know I haven't heard a thought come out of you that's original. You've called them your thoughts, but they're not. You've stolen them. They've been around forever. When you see that, it's easier to let go of them. And letting go of those thoughts is one of the ways that you free yourself. And again, the more you do it, just like a muscle, you get better and better and better. And all of a sudden, the shit that used to make you crazy or stressed out, I'm like, how many things have you worried about that never came to be? And some people, their life is good, so they worry about other people, so they're never not worried, right? So it's really just a pattern. If you want wealth, real wealth is not just money, it's emotion. It's like, what are we really after in money? You don't want money, you don't want pieces of paper with the pictures of deceased notables on it. You want what you think money will give you. You think it'll give you freedom or security or stability or love. It won't give you love, it'll get you sex, it won't get you love. Money won't, right? So really what you're after is the emotion. And so what I want people to get is the emotion they want now, and all it is a new habit. It's learning to discipline this mind, right? By realizing the mind thoughts are out there and letting them float by and constantly coming back to what can I love about this? What can I appreciate? It's like, if you can learn to love or at least appreciate, start to enjoy the things that you used to get upset about, how much freedom would you have? How much more joy would you have? And I know people who got billions of dollars, I've coached them, who is like, holy shit, they live in scarcity all the time. One man, I'll never forget, he's screaming at his wife. I'm in the meeting, I'm in the house, and he's screaming at his wife because she spent some money on a bunch of outfits and stuff like that. And he's a multi-billionaire. He couldn't spend all his money in his lifetime. And then he's totally upset at his daughters in her 20s who spent some money too. And I'm like, I pulled him aside afterwards and I said, what do you do this for? And what do you do it for? And he's like, well, it's the principal thing. I said, no, the principal thing is, do you love these people? And do you want them to have an abundant life? When you don't have one loss, but you live like you're poor, And it's like, I finally got through to him. But so many people, that's why I say money doesn't change you. Money magnifies who you are. So you want to expand the depth of who you are and free yourself from suffering by just knowing it's a pattern of thought, and you can change the pattern of thought.
Rule number 7, learn from failure.
Failure is part of life. I mean, the difference for me, though, is I look at failure as a stepping stone to success. It's a speed bump. I know I'm going to fail, but it's not failure if you learn something. And so, gosh, I've made so many mistakes. I've screwed so many things up. But every time I do, it becomes a way for me to explain to someone else what it takes. It's like, here's what I've done. I think I have the ability to influence people because I talk about my failures. I talk about all the things that mess me up. But I show people that I didn't let it stop me, and you don't let it stop you. And I think that's really the secret in that area.
And if everything you touch was successful, you probably won't be able to relate to people as much.
No, you'll be relate, and also it's be total bullshit, and everyone knows it's bullshit. And also you'd be bored silly. Right. I mean, think about it. If you just said, I want this and it happened, I want this and it happened, people don't value what they don't fight for. It's like you see kids sometimes your parents will say, you're not going to value this if you don't work for it. And your kid going, I'll value it, just give it to me, right? But it's true. Yeah. The things we've worked the hardest for, we value the most. Yeah. So I think, the purpose of a goal is not getting it anyway. The purpose of a goal, is who you become. Who you become is going to make you happy or it's going to make you sad. Yeah. So I'm not looking for an effortless approach. Sure. There's no such thing.
And rule number 8, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is don't give up.
There is another level. The only reason you keep saying there isn't is you feel so exhausted about where you are. But life, the universe, or God is just testing you because there is another level. If this is good, giant jump to excellence, poor to good to excellence. There's a level where all your dreams are realized. There's a level that you've always dreamed about. It is real. It has not gone away. But it takes that extra burst when you think there's nothing left. There's no way. You've tried everything 10 million times and you keep going. It's almost like God is saying, if you keep hitting this wall enough times, I will see that you will not stop, that you are filled with that level of determination, faith, and courage, and then the door opens and you get to that next level. But what most people don't know is the next level is just 2 millimeters above. And it's called outstanding, ladies and gentlemen, outstanding. What's it called? What's it called? What's it called? Outstanding, magnificent, unstoppable, extraordinary, not excellent. It's a different level. It's a level where you are not one of the best, you are the best. And you know what's amazing? You only have to be 2 millimeters more than everybody else and you get everything. You get the joy, the laughter, the fun, the family, the passion, the economics, the freedom, the spirit. It's all there. What Jerry Maguire called the Quan, baby. All of it. And it's just 2 millimeters above, and most excellent people give up because they're exhausted. And there's some people who go, the harder I hit it, the more I hit it, sooner or later it's going down, I'm not stopping. And when you do that enough, it pops open.
Now I've got a really special bonus clip from Tony on how to get out of your boxed life that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Time to move from just watching another video to actually taking action in your life or your business. And if you're feeling bold, leave the answers in the comments below. Here we go. Question number 1. What is a story that you need to change? Number 2. How will you feed your mind with greatness? And number 3, what will you not give up on?
We're living in a society where nobody moves anymore. What do we like today? How do people get injured today? They don't get injured smashing into people, playing football and anything else. They get injured typing, right? Picking up a pencil. That's how people get hurt today because we don't use everything anymore. We live in a box. Think about it. Think about our lives today and how different it is than maybe the way we were formed to be made, to run, to hunt, to create, to procreate, to raise our children, to move, to farm, to do all the things that made us use all of our body. Today, what do? You wake up and you have this box life. You have a box breakfast, right? You get in your box car, you drive to your box office, you load up a box elevator. You don't use the stairs, of course, right? You go to your box office where you type on a box, talk on a box, right? Go into a box room for meetings, right? Sure enough, got a little box you can type on, listen to music on, box, have your box lunch, drive your box home or get in the train or subway and another box home, get home to your box, and then turn on the box, type on a box, message on a box, and maybe go get a cylinder to change your state, right? Maybe. And most people's idea of exercise in our society today is fill the tub, pull the plug, and fight the current. That's the world we live in today.
So let me give you the one-word secret to happiness. One word. This is all you need to be happy.
It's the most important word ever.
If you had to think of one word that's most important to you or that sums you up or that would be kind of like a little beacon.
If you want more Tony Robbins, check out the 8 hours of motivation we did on him. The video link is right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I'm very excited about this session because one of the biggest challenges for people is everybody wants a better quality of life. Everybody wants life to be greater. When you get in certain states, you think one thought. When you get in other states, you think another thought. It's like turning the channel. And so what I really show people in the book how to do is how to turn the channel so that you're not suffering and you're living in a beautiful state. But what does it take? Let's just quickly say it. Number one, it takes acknowledging what's your favorite flavor of suffering. Is it worry? Is it stress? Is it anger? Is it loneliness? Is it boredom? Is it overwhelm? And then noticing what are the thoughts that trigger that and realizing it doesn't matter how much money you have, those thoughts can still make a billionaire crazy and frustrated and overwhelmed. And so what I show people to do is a process of how to let go of those thoughts. And we walk through that in the book in detail. But fundamentally, it starts with making the most important decision of your life, which is, if I would ask me up until 2 years ago, I would say it's who you spend time with, who you love, because who you spend time with is who you become. I think it's still one of the most important decisions in life. But you can pick the right person and still do things in your head and make yourself miserable. So you really have to decide. The most important decision is, do I want to be happy? Will I commit to being happy? More important than happy. Sometimes you'll be so happy you smile so much your face hurts, right? You need variety. Am I committed to living in a beautiful state even when it doesn't go my way? Even when it rains on my parade? Even when my biggest fear shows up? Because I can't control whether your husband or wife will live or die or get sick or leave you or get a divorce. I don't want any of that to happen to any human being. I hate suffering. I do anything I can to help people not suffer. But I can't control that. You can. There are people who have lost their arms, lost their sight. There have been people that have been through the most horrific experiences in life, and they found a way to still be happy because they've made the decision that life is too short to suffer. I've interviewed dozens and hundreds over the years, but dozens that have impacted my soul, that made me realize I can change this. I've just gotten used to it. I've bought into the theory that this survival software that's constantly running and making you suffer, that's normal. No, that's what the mind will do. And mind has been around forever. What I'm going to do is something different. And the way I get out of suffering, I give myself a 90-second rule. It's really simple. I say, look, if I feel myself starting to feel that stress, feeling that pissed offness or upsetness or concern or worry about my kid, whatever, I realize that's not going to make it better. Life's too short to suffer. And then I just kind of breathe slowly, slow everything down, And I just watched the thought go by and go, look at that crazy thought. Because everybody's had crazy thoughts. Everybody's had a thought, I'm going to kill that son of a bitch, right? And then you don't kill them because you don't believe that thought. It's the thoughts that are stressful that you believe that mess you up. When you question them, you break the pattern. And then the last thing besides the 90 seconds, and by the way, Richard, be honest, in the beginning, it should have been like 4-hour rule, maybe a 4-day rule. I was not very good.
A waiting period.
Yes. But what's nice is the more I've done it's like a muscle. The more I've trained myself to do it, I can authentically tell you now, it takes a lot for something to take more than 90 seconds for me now. And the level of joy surpasses all the money you could ever have in a million years. And then the money, it's easier to even make money because you're not attached. You don't have the fears. You don't have the scarcity that people have because you feel so rich already right now. I always tell people, don't wait to be rich. What is that richness? It's abundance, it's joy, it's happiness, it's contribution. It's getting out of yourself. Because as long as we're thinking about, oh my God, I lost something, or you did something, now I have less love, less respect, less money. If I think lost less, or because you did something, or because I did something, I'm never gonna have what I want in my life. Lost less, never. Those 3 thought patterns, they're the source of all suffering. And the antidote, see it for what it really is, know it's BS, and find something to appreciate. You know, a lot of times people do read body language. They do read people. They know what's going on, but they don't do much about it because they've gotten used to it. I always tell people you get what you tolerate. And if you go to a meeting and everybody's on their cell phone when you're talking about something important and you just let that continue, pretty soon the meetings are a total waste of time. So what I really believe is when you read something, you got to act on it. You got to do something. You can't lead other people if you're the one on your phone in the middle of the meeting either, right? So you got to lead by example. You've got to not tolerate within yourself or other people things that don't support what you are. And you've got to, when you see there's a challenge, you see there's something that's not congruent, they're saying one thing and they're feeling another, you got to metacom it. Say, tell me more. What's really going on? If you get in the habit of doing that, then you're never going to be bored in a business meeting again, first of all. People get bored because people are just saying the same things over and over again. They're managing their business, they're managing their life, they're not innovating, they're not creating, they're not digging deep, they're not pushing each other. When you get a culture of people, and all it takes is one, where a leader steps in and they will not settle for a half-assed answer, and they can be playful, they can be funny, they can be warm, they can be direct, they can be crazy about it, but they keep probing, you're gonna get to what's real. And when you get to what's real, that's when you start creating breakthroughs in business and in life.
There is another level. The only reason you keep saying there isn't is you feel so exhausted about where you are. But life, the universe, or God is just testing you because there is another level. If this is good, giant jump to excellence, giant from good, poor to good to excellence. There's a level where all your dreams are realized. There's a level that you've always dreamed about. It is real. It has not gone away. But it takes that extra burst when you think there's nothing left, there's no way, you've tried everything 10 million times, and you keep going. It's almost like God is saying, if you keep hitting this wall enough times, I will see that you will not stop, that you are filled with that level of determination, faith, and courage, and then the door opens, and you get to that next level. But what most people don't know is, the next level is just 2 millimeters above. And it's called outstanding, ladies and gentlemen, outstanding. What's it called? What's it called? What's it called? Outstanding, magnificent, unstoppable, extraordinary, not excellent. It's a different level. It's a level where you are not one of the best, you are the best. And you know what's amazing? You only have to be 2 millimeters more than everybody else and you get everything. You get the joy, the laughter, the fun, the family, the passion, the economics, the freedom, the spirit. It's all there. What Jerry Maguire called the Quan, baby. All of it. And it's just 2 millimeters above, and most excellent people give up because they're exhausted. And there's some people who go, the harder I hit it, the more I hit it, sooner or later it's going down, I'm not stopping. And when you do that enough, it pops open. This could be the greatest time you ever live if you control what you focus on, if you find a more empowering meaning, and if you decide to model the actions of those who succeeded before you. It can be the best financial time, the best emotional time, the best spiritual time of your life, but you better take control of your state. And if you think you're going to do it just by today, you're wrong. You're going to need to get yourself some rituals. Right now, every one of you in this room is controlled by your rituals. I don't just mean this one. I mean every morning you get up. I know your body. I can look at your body right now, and I can guess your rituals. Some of you, your rituals to work out 5 times a week, I can see it clearly. 4 to 6 times a week, it's obvious. Because you couldn't look like that if you didn't do that. Some form of workout. I don't care if it's walking, lifting, whatever. Some of you, it's obvious that lifting weights is part of it. You can see by that man's muscles. I know what his rituals are. Because your life comes from your rituals. If you don't develop the ritual, you're kidding yourself. How many agree with me on this? Raise your hand, say I. And there are rituals that put you in state, and there are rituals that take you out of state. You have rituals in your relationship, you have rituals with your body, you have rituals around your finances, and the rituals that worked in the reaping time of fall in the markets and in business and in real estate, those rituals won't work now. If you do the right thing at the wrong time, you get pain. I'll say that again. If you do the right, you go, but Tony, I'm doing the right thing, but I'm not being rewarded. If you do the right thing at the wrong time, you don't get rewarded, you get pain. So you better do the right thing at the right time, and to do that, you better know what season you're in, and to do that, you better learn how to change your state, how to take control of your own conditioning. That's what I live for. Does this make sense to you, yes or no? Come on, guys, yes or no? So now it's time to train yourself to do that. I'll show you how fast it can change. Try this just for a second. I want to show you what you can do with just focus. Try this for a moment. I'm going to give you a test. Sit up in your chair with some energy. Make sure your buddy next to you is in a strong state. If otherwise, adjust their state. Come on, change their physiology, whatever they got to do. See if they're ticklish. That might help. Now do this. I want you to look around this room right now and find everything in this room that you can find that is brown as fast as you can. Look for brown, look for brown, look for brown, look for brown. Look around you, look for brown, look for brown, look for brown. Okay, close your eyes. I'm going to give you a test. With your eyes closed now, shout out loud everything you saw that was red. If you see a lot more brown right now than red, say yes. Open your eyes. Look for red now. I want you to really look for red. Look for red, look for red, look for red. Anything you can find that's red, look for red. All around you, look for red. Raise your hand if you found more red this time and say I. Why did you find more red this time? Because seek and you shall. That's right. Whatever you focus on, you're going to find it. In fact, let me tell you something. You'll even find it when it's not there. How many saw burgundy, called it red, just so you could have more things you counted? Raise your hand. Say, I. Come on. See, whatever you're looking for, you're going to find. So if you want to change your life, my friends, you've got to change your physiology and you got to change your focus. By the way, how fast can you change that stuff? How fast, my friends? How fast? How fast? Come on. In a heartbeat, once you rechange your conditioning. That's all you got to do. And you can do it fast. You can do it with a question or two. Try this right now. Answer this question in your mind and be honest. What in your life today, if you wanted to be, could you feel proud about right now? If you wanted to feel proud, if you didn't feel like, I shouldn't be proud, if you wanted to feel proud, what could you be proud of in your life today? Your children, your health, your body. Is there a problem you faced? Instead of running from it, you finally stepped up and handled it? What could you feel proud of in your life today if you wanted to feel proud? How many can think of something? And when you think about this thing you're proud of, what about that makes you feel proud? What do you focus on that makes you feel proud? How do you breathe when you really start to feel proud? What's the kind of look on your face that starts to happen when you let yourself feel proud? Yeah. How's that feel? Think of another area of life. Think of an area of your life that you're grateful for. Or if you go, I'm not grateful. If you wanted to be grateful, what's an area you could feel grateful for? What could you feel grateful for if you really wanted to feel grateful? How many can think of something you could feel grateful for? Let me see your hands. And what about that are you grateful for? What do you focus on that makes you feel grateful? How does it feel when you're really, truly feeling filled with gratitude? Here's one. If you wanted to be excited about your life right now, and you were willing to be excited, you're willing to buck everybody else's trend, what could you feel excited about in your life if you wanted to feel excited? What could you get excited about if you really focused on it and you really took it in? And you weren't in a negative place. What could you get excited about if you wanted to be excited in your life? What could you get excited about? How many of you can think of something you feel excited about right now? Raise your hand. Let me see your hand. Say I. When you're really excited about it, what about that excites you? Or when you're really excited, how do you feel? How do you speak? What's your life like? By the way, when you're excited, does it tend to touch other people? Yes or no? Absolutely. By the way, do people have a tendency, by the way, who feels different right now than just even a couple moments ago? Raise your hand and say I. Why? Because focus is controlled by questions. If you ask a different question continuously, not once, continuously, you will get a different answer. If you ask a lousy question, you get a lousy answer and a lousy state. Somebody says, why does this always happen to me? It doesn't always happen to you, but the brain's like a computer. Ask it a question, it'll have to come up with an answer because you deserve it, you idiot. Someone will say, how come I can never lose weight? You can lose weight, but if you keep saying, how come I can never lose weight, the brain's got to come with an answer. It goes, you're a pig. Lousy questions create what? Lousy answers. Ask a better question, get a better answer. Now here's what I want you to get. I want you to get that you can change your state. How fast, guys? How fast? How fast? And if you get the habit of doing it, you'll have a different life. So what we've got to do is make that change in those standards. That's where the shifts happen. It doesn't happen any other place. And I'll give you a very simple example. If you want to know the difference in people's lives, it all comes down to what are the things that are musts for you versus shoulds. So let me tell you this. We said to have an extraordinary life, you got to have an extraordinary psychology, right? Extraordinary psychology means you got to live in an extraordinary state. To be in an extraordinary state, you got to condition your nervous system, your body, your physiology and focus to be at their best. Do you agree with this? Yes or no? Then to do that, though, you can do that. Why doesn't everybody? Not because you can't. We all have the ability. It's because of our standards. I remember a time early in my career, I was about 24, and I went to do a seminar in Boston. And in those days, a big seminar for me was like 125 people. And it was a 3-day seminar, and we worked around the clock, and people made such extraordinary changes in their life. And at the end of it, I was feeling so fulfilled. I was thinking, my God, I'm 24, maybe 25 at the time. And I am so happy because I have found my mission in life. I'm doing what I love. It's making a difference in people's lives. This is extraordinary. So we finished about midnight on the Sunday night. And around midnight, I'm still wound up, so I don't feel like going to bed. So I decided, okay, let me take a walk here, and I decided to go through Copley Square. If you've been through Copley Square, it's a pretty neat place. Because in Copley Square, you can look up and you can see buildings that were here before we were known as the United States, and beside them you see skyscrapers that are new. It's a pretty cool place. So I'm walking around midnight on Sunday night. There's nobody in Copley Square midnight on Sunday night. And I'm walking along, and I see this guy in the distance, and he's kind of stumbling back and forth between the gutter and the sidewalk. He's got a long trench coat on, his head's down like this. He's holding a brown bag, and I can start to smell him even before I get there, and I'm thinking, this guy is obviously drunk. And as I started to get closer, I thought, I bet he's going to beg me for some money. And sure enough, whatever you focus on life tends to happen, doesn't it? So sure enough, he gets real close to me, and I thought all of a sudden he wasn't going to do it, and all of a sudden he popped his head up. It was really weird. He went, Mister! He had this really bizarre looking sounding voice. He went, Mister, could you loan me a quarter? And I thought, do I want to reward this behavior? And then I thought, I don't want him to suffer. Do you have this dilemma sometimes? Like, I'm not here to judge. So years ago, I finally decided I always just give. Even if the person's pulling a scam, that's for them to deal with. If I have the ability, then I give. And so I thought, but could I teach him something? So I asked him a question back. I said, is that all you want is a quarter? So he goes, yeah, just one quarter. One quarter changed my whole life. One quarter. I said, really? He said, yeah, one quarter. So I reached in my pocket, and I pulled out my money clip. And in those days, I was very young, just starting to succeed. And my original mentor was a man named Jim Rohn. I don't know, how many have heard of Jim Rohn? Yeah, he's a great guy. And Jim told me, he said, Tony, look, you've come from a poor background. You got a poor psychology. You got to change it. He said, you don't have any money, so pretend you do. He said, start training your brain, condition it. He said, go save all your money, get $300 bills, and put them on the outside of your money clip, even though you only have $5 in between that. So every time you put it out, you'll see that, you'll feel inspired, you'll feel better. He said, and you'll feel better, you'll do better. So I was like, okay. So I did. So I pulled my money clip, and sure enough, I got $300 bills in. I made sure he saw the bills. So I'm tearing through that, right? Looking in between there, see if I can find some change. But I made sure he saw it. Sure enough, he's looking at the $100 bills, checking it out. I find the quarter, I pull it out, take the money, put it in my pocket. I notice he's watching my hand going into the pocket. I took the quarter and I looked at him and I said, "Sir, life will pay any price you ask of it." And I gave him the quarter. And then something really interesting happened. He took the quarter. He looked at the quarter. He looked at me. He looked at my pocket. He looked back at the quarter, looked at me, looked at my pocket, looked at me again, looked at the quarter, looked at my pocket, looked back at me and said, "You're weird." And then he shuffled on off like this, right? And I thought to myself, wow, what's the difference between him and me? I mean, I was 24, 25 at the time, doing what I love most, have my mission in life, and he's in his early 60s, drunk on the street begging for quarters. What's the difference? And I thought, well, maybe God's blessed me because I'm such a good person. I thought, oh, and he's such a bad person, that's such bull. And I thought, wow, maybe the answer to that question is what I just told him. Life will pay whatever price you ask of it. But you know what's interesting? You got to ask intelligently. In the Bible it says, ask and you shall what? Yeah, it's a pretty good formula. You ought to look into it. But you know what? It says ask and you shall receive, but I'm sure it meant ask intelligently. I'm sure that's what God meant. I'm sure he didn't mean bitch and you will receive. Whine and you will receive. I don't think that was the instruction. Now, if you were going to ask intelligently, there might be 5 elements of that. Number one, you'd have to ask specifically, wouldn't you? You wouldn't ask in a general way. People do that all the time. They go, I want more money. Fine, here's $1, get out of here. Very often you're getting what you're asking for. You're just not aware of how general you're asking. Clarity is power. The more clear you are about exactly what it is you want, the more your brain knows how to get there. Your brain is a servo mechanism. It's like a bomb. Those bombs, those missiles, they have a servo mechanism. So if the target moves, it knows what the target is, it follows it. Your brain, when you condition it, knows exactly what to go for and it'll find a way to get there. Did you ever buy a certain outfit or a certain car and suddenly see that car outfit everywhere? How many of you have had that experience? Say, aye. How come that car outfit's everywhere? It always was everywhere, but now you notice it. And the reason is because there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS. That part of your brain determines what you notice and what you don't notice. Your brain spends most of its time trying to make sure you don't notice because you'll go crazy if you notice everything. But when you decide what's most important to you, your brain goes after it. Everyone I know who's successful builds what I call an RPM plan. An RPM is built on the metaphor that the way to get from where you are to where do you want to go to the fastest is you got to build power, like in a car, RPMs. And the R stands for they know the result they're after. They know what they want precisely. If you don't know exactly what you want or you let yourself get beyond that into something general, you're not going to achieve it. Clarity is power. You got to know the specific result you're after. What do you want? If you can't answer that question right now in your personal life, in your body, in your relationships, in your finances, in your spirituality, then you're not going to be as fulfilled as you want to be. Today we're going to have you answer one of those questions at least. The second part of it, you got to know P, why you're doing it. Because you know what? You may get a big goal. Somebody says, I want to make $1 billion. I want to bring peace to the earth. Why? Because as soon as you come up with a goal, all the obstacles show up. Unless you've got enough emotional drive to break through that, you're never going to discover what it really takes. So you got to get yourself past that. And the way to get past that is have enough reasons. Reasons come first, answers come second. This man did not know what he wanted. He did not have enough reasons. To ask intelligently, you got to ask specifically. To ask intelligently, you got to know why you want it, have enough drive to make it happen, enough juice to make it happen. If you don't have enough reasons, you will not make it happen. And the M is, what is your massive action plan? What is going to get you to actually fall through? Because the first plan's not going to work and the second plan's going to work, so you better have enough plans that if the first two don't work, you still got something else. Otherwise, you're going to be having excuses why it didn't work. So asking intelligently requires that. So if we're going to be extraordinary in our results, we've got to be in an extraordinary state. We've got to know what we want and we got to go use it.
You attract, not just what you feel, you attract what you feel, what you are, what you attract.
What's on your mind.
What's on your mind, yeah.
It's like the law of physics. I don't know how anybody can disagree with that. Ask any physicist, they'll tell you that it's true.
David Mamet wrote a line in the play Edmund, every fear hides a wish.
I always felt like I could do anything. That's the main thing people are controlled by. Thoughts, their perception of themselves. They're slowed down by their perception of themselves. If you're taught you can't do anything, you won't do anything. I was taught I could do everything. And I'm Kanye West at age 36. So just watch the next 10 years.
You must be conscious of how you use these words. I am. I am strong. I am well. I am content. Even if your senses tell you something different, I am.
Yeah, I would visualize,
This is when you were broken poor.
Right, having directors interested in me and people that I respected saying, I like your work or whatever that is. And I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever. I had nothing at that time, so it was like, but it just made me feel better. It made me, at that time, all it really was for me was kind of making me feel better. I would drive home and think, well, I do have these things, and they're out there. I just don't have a hold of them yet, but they're out there.
I truly believe that thoughts are the greatest vehicle to change power and success in the world. Everything begins with thoughts. I mean, the chairs that we're sitting in, the room that we're in, all started because somebody thought it. So I thought up The Color Purple for myself. I know this is going to sound strange to you. I read the book. I got so many copies of that book. I passed the book around to everybody I knew. If I was on the bus, I'd pass it out to people. And when I heard that there was going to be a movie, I started talking it up for myself. I didn't know Quincy Jones or Steven Spielberg or how on earth I would get in this movie. I'd never acted in my life, but I felt it so intensely that I had to be a part of that movie. I really do believe I created it for myself. I wanted it more than anything in the world and would have done anything to do it. Anything to do it.
You'll see that putting the words I am in front of something into your mind and imagination is a very powerful way to attract into your life. Imagination. Many of our greatest thinkers have spoken about the power of imagination. William Blake said that what is now proved was once only imagined. Now think about the importance of that. If you want to have something show up in your life, the kind of person you would like to become, manifest something new into your life, something powerful, whatever it might be, you obviously must first be able to imagine it. Your imagination. This is yours and yours alone. You can place anything into your imagination that you want to place there. Independent of what anybody else says about it, independent of what your senses tell you, independent of all the evidence that may be to the contrary, you can place into your imagination an I am that represents what you would like to attract into your life and make it come into fruition. Einstein's most famous quote, one of his most famous observations, he said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world.
So many people are just so fucking obvious. They don't even realize that when they box me in or try to verbally put me in some type of box or put Donda in a box, that they're really showing their level of ignorance. They're putting themselves in a box. And, people can write all they want, but what are people doing? And if there's anybody that's out there doing, they know how hard it is to actually do. And I'm like a motivation of the doers. If everything I did failed, which it doesn't, it actually succeeds. But if everything I did failed, just the fact that I'm willing to fail is an inspiration. People are so scared to lose that they don't even try.
I wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe, and I dated at Thanksgiving 1995. and I put it in my wallet, and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff. But then, just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on, I think it was Dumb and Dumber. Maybe.
Dumb and Dumber, yeah.
You can see it here, and you have the courage enough to speak it, it will happen. So I see these shots, I see these sequences, and I don't shy away from them. A lot of times people believe in certain things, but they keep to themselves. They don't put it out there. If you truly believe in it, if you become vocal with it, you are creating that law of attraction, and it will become reality.
Einstein once said, if you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want your children to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. It's one of the reasons I've taken to writing children's books, to give children an opportunity to explore that thing called their imagination from the time that they're just little boys and little girls. And what I have in my imagination is a do not disturb sign. And it's like mentally inside, I've placed that in there. I do not anyone to disturb or try to change around anything that I have placed in there about what is possible for me. So you never want to place into your imagination any thought that you would not want to materialize. You never want to allow in your imagination to be contaminated by the way life used to be. Your imagination is yours. Don't let any other people influence you. Never allow people's ideas about what is possible or impossible for you to occupy your imagination. What does all things are possible leave out? That doesn't leave out the possibility that we can defy gravity, that we can soar, that we can heal ourselves, that we can create magnificent prosperity in our life, that we can change the world. I said at one of the breaks here to the audience here tonight, I really believe that if this message gets out there into the world, we can shift the consciousness of this planet. If enough of us begin to believe we're placing into our imagination a world that we want to live in that has no limitations and that is based on living from a place of love and kindness.
One thing I want to express to people also, people think a lot of my motivation is very like megalomaniac and self-oriented. To the contrary, completely. I just want to help. From day one, I just wanted to help.
If you want to accomplish anything, which means to become an extraordinary level of consciousness person, you must first expect it of yourself. Collectively, if enough of us begin to believe that we can create that kind of a world, if public television can put on these kinds of programs, which is why I am a part of public television, because this is what they broadcast. This is what comes into our homes. The energy of all things are possible, not the energy of violence and hatred and, and all of the silly stuff that you see so frequently on commercial and cable television, especially the violence and especially the rude communication between young children and their parents and so on. Einstein, once again, this man of imagination, said logic will get you from A to B, but imagination will take you everywhere. You have to be able to call the things which you have not seen yet materialize and manifest into your physical world. You have to be able to say to yourself, I call those things that I would like to become as if they already do. And you place into your imagination fearlessly the I ams which you would like to create for yourself. And when it's time for me to write another book, I don't even know what it's going to be. I just know that it starts germinating inside me. And it's like a calling, it's like a passion. And I'm over there at my writing space. And before I do, I come up with the title. And before I even write one word, I did it with this book, Wishes Fulfilled. I take a jacket, this isn't even my book. And I take this jacket and I ask the art department at Hay House if they will please design a book with this title. and I put it around another book, which I have done, and I set it on my writing space next to Ralph Waldo Emerson and Jesus Christ picture and Paramahansa Yogananda and my children and the people that I love deeply and profoundly in my life. And I look at it with 3 white candles that I light every single time I sit over there, and I look at that jacket. And it's as if I call those things, the book does not exist. I call it as if it did.
Create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life, because you become what you believe. When I was a little girl, Mississippi, growing up on the farm, only buckwheat is a role model, watching my grandmother boil clothes in a big iron pot through the screen door because we didn't have a washing machine and made everything we had. I watched her and realized somehow inside myself, in the spirit of myself, that although this was segregated Mississippi and I was colored and female, that my life could be bigger, greater than what I saw.
The body has limitations, the mind does not. We focus so much on what goes on from the neck down that we forget it all starts from here. Everything starts from here. If you're not mentally ready, you're never really physically prepared. And that's where the preparation starts. I firmly believe that everybody in this room, everybody on this planet has a gift. It's your job to figure out what that gift is. Then it becomes your job to decide whether you're going to act on that or not. Everyone sees the work that you put in, but it's what you don't see is going to determine how far you're going to get. I hear stuff all the time. People say, oh, look in the mirror and you'll see why you're not succeeding. I don't believe that, okay? It's what you don't see in the mirror. That's what's holding you back. It's what you're not willing to see is why talent is not enough. And when you finally see it and accept it and decide to work on it, then you can take that next level.
Have the right heroes. I mean, I've always been lucky in that respect. And if the people you look up to are going to form your vision of what the world, how you want to be in later life. And I'll give you 2 pieces of advice. I'd invest as much in myself as you can. I mean, you're your own biggest asset by far. I mean, you've got all kinds of potential. All the people in this room, you're lucky to be in this country, gotten a good education, but most people go through life using up a very, very small part of their potential. And so anything you do that invests in yourself, that's the best investment you can possibly make. And then I would follow my passion. I mean, whatever turns you on. I was lucky. I found something early that turned me on. But you don't want to take a job just for the money. You don't want to take a job for an organization that you really don't feel good about, or work for people that you don't feel good about. You really want to be excited when you get out of bed every morning. And it won't necessarily be the job that you have 10 years later, but you'll be learning so much as you go along. And I took a job with Ben Graham, my hero, and I never asked the salary, and I found at the end of the month when I got my first paycheck what I was earning, because I just knew it was the right thing to be doing. So I would follow your passion.
I think happiness trumps everything. Easy for me to say because it really worked out for me, because happiness coincides with financial upside. I have friends who make $74,000 a year that are just happier people than friends that are making $18 million a year that are not. You've got to do you, but please don't let the entrepreneurial society, don't let me, don't let your parents push you into what success is. It's different for all of us, but and this is the big but, you gotta be self-aware about it.
Yeah, who you spend time with is who you become. Because whoever you spend time with affects your beliefs and your values, and your need for their love, their attention, their significance will affect. If I'm going to play tennis and I play someone worse than I am on a regular basis, I am not going to get better.
Right. So you play legacy.
Yeah, you do that. Even if you play terrible, your skill sets are going to grow significantly because of your desire to connect and to play at that level.
And I should be the weakest link in my chain that I have, and that'll make me be stronger, it'll make me run faster. I mean, like an analogy I've always used is, all right, if you run the 100-yard dash with people that can't run as fast as you, yeah, you'll win. Hands down, you know that. But if you run with people much faster than you, all right, yeah, you might come in last every single time, but your time will be better. Because they're making you run all the faster. They're making you dig down just a little bit more. It doesn't matter that you won, your time is faster. And that's what I knew I had to do. I had to get out of Loserville and throw myself into a place where, like, this is what the fuckers do for a living.
The reality is going out and trying to do something, whether it's to make it on your own, it's to start your own company, to write a book, or to, you know, to pursue some artistic career, you are facing adversity day in and day out. People don't like what you do. It's easier to quit. You know, you run out of inspiration. You know, you think this opportunity is going to be your big shot, and it doesn't pan out, or you get fired, or you get, you know, you get bumped. There's what it really is a day in and day out kind of adversity, right? It's never as easy as you think it is. It never goes as smoothly as you think it is. And I think obviously how we respond to these sort of pivotal moments of enormous adversity is one thing, but I am more interested in how you bounce back day in and day out. How do you get up and do the work, and get up and do the work, and get up and do the work, and deal with the problems as they come your way.
It is completely in your control, and it's completely identifiable. And it's only when people don't want to believe that very simple truth. And if you guys know Occam's razor, right? The simplest answer is usually the right answer. The simplest answer is probably not some big conspiracy against you or the department that you're in or whatever. It's you're not doing a good enough job. Steve Martin wrote a book called Be So Good They Can't Ignore You.
It's like the masterpiece is enjoying your life to the utmost and having the most success with your family, with your friends, the most relationship success, the most harmony with the people that you come in contact with. But that doesn't seem to be rewarded the same way in our world as like someone who's got some baller house and a fucking helicopter picks him up and he's got golden underwear
But that fades, right?
Yeah, it does, but
they can have that helicopter, and I guarantee you that it fades and they want something new. There's something new that you're desiring past that.
Like if you're born into like some super wealthy multi-billionaire family and you've got a Ferrari when you're 16 and you know you drive around there, fly around everywhere in private jets and you live in a giant mansion, I just don't think that you can ever appreciate
definitely not
the difficulty of life.
So the first important lesson that I want to impart to you is the importance of escaping what I call the comparison paradigm. Okay, so you basically have the self-acceptance paradigm and the comparison paradigm. And let me point out some things to you that you might have never thought about. All right, so say you don't make a lot of money, or let's say that you're not that tall or you're not that good looking. Well, think about this for a minute. Imagine you're making $100 grand a year. Okay, you're making $100,000 a year. Sounds like a lot, right? Well, what if I told you that when you make about 100 grand a year, you move into a neighborhood where you probably have friends that are making 500,000 a year or even $1 million a year? Well, what happens if you move into a neighborhood where people are making $1 million a year? You're going to be around people who are making $10 million a year. How about if you make 10 million? You'll be around people making 50 million. Well, do you think that you would feel secure with yourself if you had $50 million a year? You think you would, right? Actually, what I would tell you is that unless you fix the inner issue, you still probably wouldn't. Because when you're making 50 million a year, now you're comparing yourself to people that are called old money. And old money laughs in the face of $50 million a year, okay? Old money laughs in the face of $50 million a year. In fact, you will never win. You will never win in this paradigm. I remember being out in the Lincoln Mall in Miami South Beach, and I went to this watch store. I think it was called Arthur Miller or something like that, and they have these like $100,000 watches. And out of curiosity, I said, how do you sell these? Who's interested in stuff like this? Just not like in a mean or judgmental way, I was just curious. And she was like, well, when you can't bring your yacht to the restaurant, you can wear your Arthur Miller watch. And why do people do that? Well, I think they do it because they need for people to see that they have the big yacht in order to feel comfortable with themselves. It's like when their yacht's not around, they feel naked. It's almost like if you have your favorite shirt, or you're not wearing it, you don't feel good. As you get more and more money, you buy your favorite yacht, you don't feel comfortable if you don't have your favorite yacht around. You're in celebrity circles, but actually celebrities aren't even that rich compared to old money. Whatever circle you're in, there's always somebody who has more, okay? There was a great Nas lyric where he talked about this, where he's like, you know, rappers, we think we're so tight because we got like a gold grill or a Rolex watch, or, you know, like heated floors. There's people with a piece of artwork in their house that's worth more than your gold grill, your heated floor, and everything that you own. One little piece of artwork, okay? So if you're comparing yourself, you're not gonna win, no matter how much cash you make. You have to get out of that paradigm. All it is pure insecurity. In fact,
There is nothing you cannot be, there's nothing you cannot do, there's nothing you cannot have. You are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created. Who could reject such wondrous magnificence? But you do not know who you are, and you think you are a great deal less. I tell you this, you are your own rule maker. You set the guidelines, and you decide how well you have done, how well you are doing. For you are the one who has decided who and what you really are, and who you want to be. And you are the only one who can assess how well you're doing. All you see in your world is the outcome of your idea about it. Do you want your life to truly take off? Life will take off for you then, when you choose for it to.
Make a choice. Like, you just decide.
You have not so chosen as yet. You have procrastinated, prolonged, protracted, protested. Now it's time that you promulgated and produced what you have been promised.
What it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide.
Your world would not be in its present condition were you to have simply listened to your experience. The result of your not listening to your experience is that you keep reliving it over and over again. You cannot resist something to which you grant no reality. The act of resisting a thing is the act of granting it life. When you resist an energy, you place it there.
You attract not just what you feel, you attract what you feel, what you are.
The more you resist, the more you make it real, whatever it is you're resisting. What you open your eyes to look at disappears. That is, it ceases to hold its illusory form. If you look at something, truly look at it, you will see right through it, and right through any illusion it holds for you, leaving nothing but ultimate reality in your sight. In the face of ultimate reality, your puny illusion has no power. It cannot long hold you in its weakening grip. You see the truth of it, and the truth sets you free. Only when you say, I did this, can you find the power to change it. It is much easier to change what you are doing than to change what another is doing. The first step in changing anything is to know and accept that you have chosen it to be what it is. You are always in the process of creating, every moment, every minute, every day. How you can create we'll go into later. For now, just take my word for it. You are a big creation machine, and you are turning out a new manifestation literally as fast as you can think.
We really do paint our world with our thoughts and our level of self-belief.
You are a threefold being. You consist of body, mind, and spirit. You could also call these the physical, the non-physical, and the metaphysical. The process of creation starts with thought, an idea, conception, visualization.
If you see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
Everything you see was once someone's idea. Nothing exists in your world that did not first exist as pure thought.
If you have a clear picture in your head of something that is going to happen, a clear belief in that it will happen no matter what.
Thought is the first level of creation.
If you can see it here,
next comes the word.
And you have the courage enough to speak it, it will happen.
Everything you say is a thought expressed. It is creative and sends forth creative energy into the universe.
I wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe. And I put it in my wallet, and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff. But then, just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on Dumb and Dumber.
Next comes action. Actions are words moving. Words are thoughts expressed. Thoughts are ideas formed.
Visualization works if you work hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You can't just visualize and then, go eat a sandwich.
Go first to your highest thought about yourself. Imagine the you that you would be if you lived that thought every day. Imagine what you would think, do, and say, and how you would respond to what others do and say.
Every second of every day I was daydreaming.
Put the new car up on your mirror. Put the weight you want to be on the refrigerator. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
So, do you want your life to take off? Begin at once to imagine it the way you want it to be, and move into that. Check every thought, word, and action that does not fall into harmony with that. Move away from those. When you have a thought that is not in alignment with your higher vision, change to a new thought, then and there. When you say a thing that is out of alignment with your grandest idea, make a note not to say something like that again. When you do a thing that is misaligned with your best intention, decide to make that the last time. And make it right with whomever was involved if you can.
I stayed true to my dreams, and by doing that, eventually they came true.
This will require tremendous mental and physical effort. It will entail constant, moment-to-moment monitoring of your every thought, word, and deed. It will involve continued choice-making, consciously. This whole process is a massive move to consciousness. What you will find out if you undertake this challenge is that you've spent half your life unconscious. That is to say, unaware on a conscious level of what you are choosing in the way of thoughts, words, and deeds until you experience the aftermath of them. Then when you experience these results, you deny that your thoughts, words, and deeds had anything to do with them.
I want to remind you to continue to dream and dream big.
What dream or vision do you want to turn into reality?
There is nothing you cannot be, there's nothing you cannot do, there's nothing you cannot have.
If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. All the way. All the way. You will ride life straight to perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is. If you're going to try, go all the way.
If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. To pass SEAL training, there are a series of long swims that must be completed. One is the night swim. Before the swim, the instructors joyfully brief the students on all the species of sharks that inhabit the waters off San Clemente. They assure you, however, that no student has ever been eaten by a shark, at least not that they can remember. But you are also taught that if a shark begins to circle your position, stand your ground. Do not swim away. Do not act afraid. And if the shark, hungry for a midnight snack, darts towards you, then summons up all your strength and punch him in the snout, and he will turn and swim away. There are a lot of sharks in the world. If you hope to complete the swim, you will have to deal with them. So if you want to change the world, don't back down from the sharks. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had was made up of the little guys, the Munchkin crew, we called them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had 1 American Indian, 1 African American, 1 Polish American, 1 Greek American, 1 Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys from every corner of the nation and the world always had the last laugh, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers. The 9th week of training is referred to as Hell Week. It is 6 days of no sleep, constant physical and mental harassment, and 1 special day at the Mud Flats. The Mud Flats are an area between San Diego and Tijuana where the water runs off and creates the Tijuana Sloughs, a swampy patch of terrain where the mud will engulf you. It is on Wednesday of Hell Week that you paddle down in the Mud Flats and spend the next 15 hours trying to survive this freezing cold, the howling wind, and the incessant pressure to quit from the instructors. As the sun began to set that Wednesday evening, my training class, having committed some egregious infraction of the rules, was ordered into the mud. The mud consumed each man till there was nothing visible but our heads. The instructors told us we could leave the mud if only 5 men would quit. Only 5 men, just 5 men, and we could get out of the oppressive cold. Looking around the mud flat, it was apparent that some students were about to give up. It was still over 8 hours till the sun came up. 8 more hours of bone-chilling cold. The chattering teeth and the shivering moans of the trainees were so loud, it was hard to hear anything. And then one voice began to echo through the night. One voice raised in song. The song was terribly out of tune, but sung with great enthusiasm. One voice became 2, and 2 became 3, and before long, everyone in the class was singing. The instructors threatened us with more time in the mud if we kept up the singing, but the singing persisted, and somehow the mud seemed a little warmer, and the wind a little tamer, and the dawn not so far away. If I have learned anything in my time traveling the world, it is the power of hope. The power of one person, a Washington, a Lincoln, King, Mandela, and even a young girl from Pakistan, Malala. One person can change the world by giving people hope. So if you want to change the world, start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risks, step up when the times are the toughest, face down the bullies, lift up the downtrodden, and never ever give up. If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better.
People quit all the time because they're doing it for the money. There's a debate right now going on Twitter of like, how many years do you have to work until the hard work, until the thing? This guy's like, Gary Vee, you said you hustled your face off for 10 years. He's like, I only had to do it for 2 years. I couldn't imagine doing it for 10. And I'm laughing at him. And another guy jumps in and goes, well, Gary said it best. Eat shit for blank years and eat caviar for the rest of your life. Like, are you enjoying, like, is this fun? I'm sure he's a lovely dude. Is this fun that you're filming this? Or are you doing it because you think it's gonna get you to the next level of success? Do you love your process? The gateway to happiness is to love your process, whatever that may be, whether that creates wealth or doesn't, if that creates legacy and art or it doesn't, that creates impact on the world or it doesn't. You're clearly driven. Like, you know, first you wanted to be in the NBA, then you wanted to be in the then you wanted to be in the PBA, then you wanted to act. Like, I think the thing that you need to understand is that you've got a gear of motivation that makes you do. The first two things in sports didn't work out. The thing that worked out in acting, it did work out. Whatever the definition of what you're trying to figure out right now, it may or may not work. What I'm excited about is the fact that you've got a gear that makes you want to do. And I think one of the biggest problems right now, especially for people under 30 who want to be influencers or entrepreneurs, which is almost everybody, there's a lot of vanity metrics that they're trying to achieve to that mean nothing. I raised $50 million. So you might go out of business. I've got 1 million subscribers. So I've got 10 million subscribers. So I think right now, we live in a world that has so much data that people are living towards the numbers. How many likes, how many followers, how much capital I've raised. It becomes a numbers race, and it usually leads to bad behavior, because when you're chasing a number that people can see, you often take shortcuts. For me, the shit is the caviar. Like, I love the fucking process. I love building. A very big reason acting probably worked out was you both thought it could bring you something you were looking for from a level of attention and success and fame and dollars, but you also liked it. Because otherwise, if you didn't like it, you would have quit after the third no at auditions. When you do something for money, you quit. When you do it because you love it, you do it forever. People win when they're self-aware. Some want to make their bed, some don't. Some have this strength, some have that weakness. You need to figure out who you are, and you need to execute against that. You have to love the process, not the stuff that the process buys you. People quit all the time because they're doing it for the money. I think the bigger question is, what do you want the money for? Is it blocking an insecurity? Is it to get the girl? Is it because you're trying to amass as much as you can because you actually don't like working and you want to live it? The reason so many people fail in life and business is their model is, let me get the money so that I can enjoy and relax. They think of it as like hoarding it and then eating it all over time. It's like retirement and all this stuff. It's such a bad way to because then you're feeling the pressure of like massing so that you can then enjoy. I think the bigger question is like, what are you up to? Like, why are you doing it? Like, what's up? I just think a lot of people are trying to achieve success and use fame or money as makeup for a situation that they're just not happy about. Like, you have to figure out how to make your day in and day out happy. It's all an inside game. You need to be enjoying the amassing so much that you never get to the enjoying part. Otherwise, you're gonna be impatient and try to be out of it as quickly as possible to buy those things, or you're gonna regret it later in life, right? Like, I will never retire because it's not as fun as working. Like, it's not as fun. Like, it's not as fun for me to lay on the beach and play golf all day and and lay on a yacht in the middle of the Mediterranean for 100 days in the summer and go to vineyards and go to concerts and see friends. That's not as fun as fucking 15 hours of meetings all day. I don't want to lay in a swan in a pool. I don't want to. That is what people have to figure out. Whether that's singing or being a mother or teaching a classroom, to me the game matters. And by the way, somebody may be looking and being like, Gary looks like shit, 4 a.m., 6 flights in Asia, and I'm sitting here in Ibiza. And for her or him, that's winning, and that's great. You've gotta try and figure that out at all costs. And if you're not happy right now, you need to do something different. I just don't understand how people think wealth is the gateway to happiness. The gateway to happiness is to love your process, whatever that may be, whether that creates wealth or doesn't, if that creates legacy in art or doesn't, that creates impact on the world or it doesn't. You've gotta try and figure that out at all costs. And if you're not happy right now, you need to do something different. You just have to, if you are not happy right now, you have to break your patterns. You have to look at life from a different perspective. You have to find a different angle to look at it from, because this shit goes fast even though it's long. Figure out what your fucking winning is. My winning is different than a lot of people's. I don't get envy, I get excited, I get competitive, I enjoy it, I enjoy my thing. What's your thing that makes you the happiest?
And just focus there.
Only there. Nobody you know has become successful outside of it being given to them from their family. Nobody you know has actually created success without working their face off. It doesn't exist. So you can sit and talk about luck, and you can sit and talk about this, that, or the other thing, but I promise you, the only controllable thing you have is your work ethic. And if you sit around and ponder, well, if I didn't live here, or if my mom wasn't an alcoholic, or if I just learned about this earlier, or if I'd been following this person earlier, or if I wasn't born a woman, or if I wasn't born a minority, if you sit and do that, you are losing. You're not wrong. It's just that business and marketing and all this doesn't care. There's just no emotion in the market. Like, that's it. And so I think we need to start having much deeper, much more serious conversations of practicality. You know, it's fun, and I love this space the most. But I loved it long before it was sexy. I loved it long before people wanted to take selfies with me. I loved it long before athletes and celebrities and rappers wanted to be entrepreneurs. I loved it long before that. It was my destiny. It was who I was. It was how I was wired. It was the only thing I knew. That's why the 4-year-old me ripped flowers out of yards and sold it. You don't read about being an entrepreneur at 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I didn't jump on this because it's cool now and it makes me money and girls. I did it because it's all I ever was. And I implore you, if you came here to be an entrepreneur, but this talk allows you to realize you're really an artist, or you're really a number 3 in a company because you bring this level of energy and you don't want to be a number 1, because let me promise you something about being a number 1. I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm a firefighter. My entire life is taking care of crap, putting out fires. 24/7, 365, my whole life is, this is a problem. Fix this, and guess what? When you're the last line of defense, there's no blaming your boss. There's no blaming the logo. There's no blaming the government. It's all my fault. All of it. And so, it's super sexy, but what's not being talked about is the friends and acquaintances I have who've committed suicide in the entrepreneur land the last 4 years, because nobody talks about the downside. Everybody thinks they're gonna be Zucks. Everybody thinks they're gonna build Snapchat. Go look at the data. The data shows that the far majority of this room will not succeed, not even close to building an actual business. And I don't come here to be somber. I come here to remind you that there's only one thing you can do. The only thing you can do that can trump the moment mommy and daddy had sex to make you. The only thing that can trump that, the only thing that can trump your DNA, the only thing that is controllable, if you want it, if you want this, is work. Started using the word work more than the word hustle, just because I want everybody to understand what we're really talking about here. If you've got a big mouth, and a lot of you do here, search the hashtag, and a lot of you say CEO, founder, owner. I call that big mouth. If you've got the audacity to do it, and so many of you've heard this from me, when I audit you, and I do, because I'm curious, it's how I learn. People talk a big game. I especially love when somebody hits me up on social, like, Gary V, you're gonna buy the Jets, I'm gonna buy the Rams, you know? Everybody's buying a sports team. And I love to look at what that person does. And then I'll DM that person and be like, yo bro, nobody, unless they were a trust fund baby, ever bought the Rams when they go skiing for a week when they're 24. Everything on you. Everything's your fault. You want to really win in life? You want to get real happy? You know why I'm really happy? Because I think everything's my fault. I've been thinking a lot lately about this whole journey, about how entrepreneurship has become something of a status and has been put on a pedestal. I've also been thinking about how scary it is when something becomes cool or interesting and what that creates. And I've been pondering that quite a bit, which is the differences between being an entrepreneur and being a successful entrepreneur. Putting the fact that you're a CEO in your Instagram profile doesn't mean that it's what you're gonna be able to do for the rest of your life. And what I'm really concerned about is that we have lived, both in Canada and the US, with basically an 8 to 9 year macro, almost a decade of good economic growth. We just have. Obviously there was a crash in the US in 2008 or 9, but if you look at the data, we're probably on the tail end of economic growth. Obviously nobody knows, otherwise they would make trillions of dollars. But one of the things that I did want to talk to you guys about today is practicality. I think practicality is stunningly not talked about enough. So for example, if you're running a business right now and it's predicated on raising money, or you've raised money and you lose money each month, it's probably a really good idea to change course pretty quickly. Because the biggest issue for me right now is that we have a lot of people who want to build brands, who want to become influencers, who want to start companies, but they're not putting in the pieces that actually allow them to weather the storm. The thing that I'm most proud of is the 2 biggest businesses I've ever built. I basically started them during very difficult times. When I first got involved in my dad's liquor store business, it was the late 90s, and just about a year and a half into my journey, I guess 2 years into my journey, the stock market crashed and all the internet companies folded, and all the people that were making money that I was targeting to sell wine stopped having money to buy wine. And then right behind that, because most of my business was New York and New Jersey based, even though we were building an internet company, it was only about a year later that 9/11 happened, and not only changed, for anybody that lived in the New York, New Jersey area, it was much more compounded for us because we lost loved ones, and I remember I lost 100 employees from one organization in one day. I had to go in hand by hand and take their emails out because everybody passed away from Cantor Fitzgerald that worked in that office. So I persevered through that because I was practical, because I didn't have a lot of overhead, and because I wasn't romantic, I wasn't dreaming. I knew that I had to buy and sell wine and liquor and beer, and I had to make sure that my expenses weren't greater than the money I was bringing in. VaynerMedia started in the ashes of the economic meltdown of the US. When I started VaynerMedia, people didn't want to pay $5,000, let alone the $50,000 or $100,000 they pay us a month now for our services. And when I started VaynerMedia, it's funny, I watch everybody watch my journey now, and there's that cliche thing of like overnight success, right? I'm gonna have this TV show come out this June, and it's gonna change my profile, right? I'm gonna sit on a stage with Will.i.am and Gwyneth Paltrow and Jessica Alba for this Apple show that I'm about to do, and everybody's gonna say, where'd he come from? That happened overnight, and it's even really happened in social. I'm sure for a lot of you, you've only really even have known about me for the last 6 months or so, even though I've been putting out content online for 10 years every single day. And so the thing that I've been really thinking about is practicality. Like VaynerMedia, even though I had already built a nice sized business, it wasn't like I was extracting a lot of money out of Wine Library. And so when AJ and I started VaynerMedia 7 years ago, we started it out of a company called Buddy Media's conference room. For the first 2 years that I ran VaynerMedia, we had no rent. We first worked out of a conference room. We then worked out of a co-working space before the whole WeWork and co-working space revolution, and I bartered my time to help that company in exchange for a very small space. We didn't buy furniture, we scrapped. And I'd already made it, I was already rich, and we scrapped. And so the biggest thing that I want to implore everybody here today to do is to take a step back and think about how fancy are they? Are you willing to be really, really, really ghetto? Do you really need that chair? Do you really need that piece of technology? Do you really need to fly that class? Like, I just think that we're living through an incredibly fancy culture of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship and CEO status is quite sexy. People are selling a lifestyle that is filled with lots of fun and trips and champagne and bikinis and bling bling and all sorts of horse shit, right? And I just think that era of this era is gonna come to an end somewhere within the next 5 years. And very honestly, I just don't want a lot of people in this room that dream to build their own businesses to have to go work at a bank or go work at a retail store. And so I would highly recommend something that I think is stunningly not talked about enough, which is if you're building a business, you have to be making money. I know that's like a funny thing to say, but I think it's important. I think the other thing that's important is to shift the context completely the other way, which is what is really winning, right? Like, what is the definition of winning? And I think we all have different definitions, right? And I think that one of the things that I also want to say is that I'm getting scared that a lot of people that are following my journey hear me talking about buying the New York Jets, and I do aspire to buy a $3 billion sports franchise. I do. It is what I want. You can look at my 5th grade yearbook long before business was cool. It's what I want to do. But I'm awfully scared that it's pressuring the people that follow me into trying to achieve things that they don't necessarily want. They just think it's the thing you do if you're trying to be a successful business person. Let me promise you something. I know tens of thousands of people. I know thousands of people extremely well. I know hundreds of people deeply well. There is no correlation between how much money someone makes and their level of happiness. I have friends who make $47,000 a year and are the happiest people I know. Their work-life balance is on point. They're part of 2 soccer teams. They play video games. They watch every show they want. They take 2 vacations that they scrap together, and they're freaking happy as hell. And I know tons of people who I grew up with in the Silicon Valley boom who have hundreds of millions of dollars in their bank account and are as miserable and as lonely and as broken as you'll ever see. So I implore all of you to please reverse engineer and figure out who you are and figure out what level of monetizing and stuff you need and what level of creativity you need. I promise you one thing that will catch you very off guard. I should be way more rich. I leave money on the table every day. I've left ungodly amounts of money on the table. I spend tons of times sending DMs and engaging with people, meeting people randomly and not cashing in. I actually believe the statement I'm about to make. I think that I love the journey and the game of entrepreneurship so much that I have subconsciously sabotaged my financial upside to make sure I can play this a little longer because I fear if the numbers keep getting too big, eventually it will take the fun out of it. When you are lucky enough, like I am, to actually do something that you love so much, do something that it puts pressure against the one thing you care about besides it, which is the time I spend with my family. My family is my whole life. And being this and doing this is the only thing that cuts into that. I couldn't breathe if I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't breathe when I wasn't an entrepreneur. That's the reason I got D's and F's in school, because I just couldn't be me. And I'm not capable of that. And so I think being here excites me, because I think coming to not LA, San Francisco, New York, London is always more fun for me. It always feels a little more practical. It always feels like there's a little bit more chips on the shoulder, which is what I have. But I want to remind everybody, just because you didn't grow up with a trust fund, just because you don't live in Silicon Valley, the market doesn't care. If you're good enough, you will win. Going back to the beginning of my talk, you need to deploy serious self-awareness and figure out who you are. I implore you to start matching your work ethic and your actions to your mouth. If you're gonna be a billionaire, you need to realize that most people that create $1 billion worth of wealth don't do anything besides work every single day of their 20s and 30s. All of them. Every person that works at VaynerMedia has taken more vacations in the last 13 months than I did in my entire 20s and early 30s. My family went on 2 family vacations my entire childhood. I was married to my wife for 5 years before we had a family. We took 2 vacations. It's the price you have to pay if you want it at the level that I want it at. And by the way, I advise nobody to want it at that level. I'm being dead serious. This is a very true statement that I think most of you will not believe, but I'm telling you it's the goddamn truth. If there was a drug that could take some ambition out, I would take it. It is so extreme. It is all in. The reason I started Daily V was to remind you that I'm outworking you. That when you talk and you're trying to figure it out, when you're trying to say you're gonna be like me, I want you to see it. I want you to see every other day, 5 a.m. I want you to see every day, midnight. All of them, every day, always, forever. That's what it takes for what I want. Good news is, between what I want and what is achievable and is considered unbelievably all-time happy is a big gap. So there's plenty of vacation time. I know tons of people with vacation time. I know tons of people with work-life balance. I know tons of people that do tons of fun activities and make 7 figures, millions of dollars a year and love it. I'm playing for legacy. I'm playing for all time. I'm looking to impact every generation that comes behind me because I want to show that you can build all-time wealth, all-time greatness, doing it the right way and the old way. That's what I'm up to. So please make sure you understand that, and more importantly, make sure you understand yourself so that you can reverse engineer that blueprint and figure out where you fit within that and then deploy it. But I promise you, you will not get there with your big idea. I promise you, sitting around and saying, oh, I had that idea for Uber before Uber did. Nobody gives a shit. I've got every idea that's gonna be successful over the next 100 years. It's all about AI and VR and AR and augmented and all this. I'll give them to you all. It doesn't matter, because most of you won't execute against it. The reason I put out all my best stuff and I'm liked and I don't charge for it is somewhere along the line I realized that 99.9% of you aren't gonna do anything about it. You're gonna ponder it, you're gonna get super pumped up when you watch me say it, and then 3 weeks later you're gonna give up because you're not willing to pay the price. And that's cool. Everybody's different, but you need to figure out what price you are willing to pay for what you want. It has been insane to me how many people have emailed me in the last month about the 2017 Flip Challenge, which for you that don't know, was a video I made in December, which is, so many of you email me asking me for $5,000, and meanwhile there's $5,000 worth of crap sitting in your house right now. Go grab it, post it on eBay, flip it, and make your money. How many people have flipped something since they saw that video? Raise your hands, just wanna say, higher. Don't be shy. That's it. You know, like, it's insane. People emailing me like, hey, this, like, I just made $8,000 because I sold $100 of this, then this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Funny thing happens when you actually work. Go figure. Funny thing happens when you actually realize it's money that gives you the opportunity. Everybody's got a big idea. Everybody's got the Uber of lawnmowers. Everybody's got the Airbnb of ice cream. It's not gonna happen. And if it does, please take the clip of this talk, email me and say, in the title, Gary V, you were wrong. And I will be the first to call you and say, Mazel Tov, I am so pumped. But I just want to remind especially 20 and 30-year-old in this room, I came out the gate and I worked every day for 13 years before I said a goddamn word to anybody. I talk a whole lot now, and I've made up for those 13 years of silence. But I just want to remind everybody that I didn't make a video to the world about anything about business until I was 35 years old, after I worked every single day from the time I was 22 and in reality 14. And then I started talking. There's a whole lot of talking going on. How about more action? How about more execution? How about more paying prices for what your mouth is saying? That is what I hope you do. I think everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. I break things up into black and white and gray, EQ and IQ. I think those are the two pillars that I kind of look at when I look at somebody. And some people have hard skills out their ass, right? They can do everything, but they don't know how to interact with the other boys and girls, and that ultimately tumbles them, right? So the reason I started talking about something called the honey empire is that's what I want everybody at Vayner to know. In the beginning, I valued honey more. That's why I call it honey empire. So if you were a good person and you could get along with everybody else, you worked at Vayner for quite a while because that was what I valued. We're now 7. We're now bigger. You know, if you've raised a child, you know things change. You expect more as they get older. And so I expect more of the organization. So we went through a tough patch over the last 6 months where I had to let go of certain people because I deemed that they didn't have the hard skills, the actual intellect, the actual ability, the output, crossing T's, dotting I's, black and white stuff, the math skills, the email copy skills to have a client, you know, the strategy skills to come up with an idea that mattered. And it was very shocking to our company and a lot of feelings got hurt. But it's the right thing to do because meritocracy matters. If you don't do that, the winning players leave.
Here's the hard truth. People don't necessarily want you to succeed. And the bigger your dream, the more people that are going to come out of the woodwork to try to stop you. As Oliver Emberton said, the only way to avoid pissing people off is to do nothing important. But if you're striving for something important, if you're trying to make real change, if there's something in your life that you are absolutely hell-bent to make happen, you have got to understand that you're going to be fighting against something. People are going to be pushing back against you, and it is going to be your ability to hold true to that vision that's going to determine whether you can pull it off. And as Victor Hugo said, you have enemies? Good. It means you stood up for something at some point in your life. And that's what people miss. They somehow want to get through this unscathed. They somehow hope that with this grand change that they want to make, that people just fall in love, that they see your vision, that they fall in line behind you and that they want you to lead them. That's not the way that people work. Having a vision already puts you in an incredibly rare group of people. Being able to see something that other people can't see, that is the role of a visionary, is literally to interpret the world that other people don't even know exists and bring it into fruition and get people excited about it, get them to fall in line. But understand, when you build an army, you will have an opposing force. But as Mark Twain said, keep away from those who try to belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that. But the really great ones, they make you believe that you too can become great. And that's the kind of person that you want to surround yourself with. You want to surround yourself with people that believe in you. You want to surround yourself with people that even when they can't see it, they can see you. even when they don't understand what you're trying to build, they believe in you and they're willing to get in line and they're willing to meet that opposing force. And when you're able to galvanize people around your idea and push it forward and paint for them the world not as it is, but as it could be, that's when you can make change. But you can't be afraid to piss people off. You have to know that they're coming for you, and you have to be willing to fight. Because if you're not willing to fight, you might as well sit down now. So if you're gonna be one of the few that stands up, you've got to stand up prepared for war.
The biggest poison in us is regret. It's poison. And I push so hard, and will, through my vehicle, which isn't meditation, which isn't health and wellness, which isn't nonprofit. My vehicle is business. I can't help it. It's what I love. I love building businesses. I love competing with you. I want to beat you. I love that game. But through that vehicle, I will always push a lack of regret and awareness to how good it really is. You're more than welcome to tell me about how bad it is or why you can't, because, or what, but it's just not true. Because if anybody ever did it, then you can too. Stop making excuses. Stop complaining. Nobody's listening. They may pretend they're listening. The market doesn't care. What you need to do is make one person happy, you. Then you can make everybody else happy. You know why I like making people happy? Because I'm already happy. And so I implore you to take this last little rant and really look at your fucking face and understand, are you doing the things that are putting you in a position to succeed? Not just in a business world, but in life. Because it's super important, because boy, when you're happy in life, your fucking business can roll. And so I'm just trying to figure it out. And I've been trying to figure it out in front of you for the last 7-8 years, trying to figure out the unlocks, EQ, IQ, self-awareness, hustle. I don't know what they are. You know why? Because like I told my man, it's 330 different unlocks. And so I'll go to all of them. They're all tried and true. And one might hit you. Yeah, it was hard work because I'm actually lazy. I talk a good game, but I'm full of shit. Or it might be something else, but fuck, one. And so,
I'm back here.
You decided to sit? You're into this, right? It's good, right? This is some good shit. You're gonna remember this?
I do.
Good. One fucking life. One life, my friends, one time. And honestly, I'll leave you with this because a lot of you need it. How you make your money is more important than how much you make.
I'm going to tell you something that every successful person has to do, including you. Believe it or not, every successful person in this world has jumped. I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. You are going to have to jump. You cannot just exist in this life. You have got to try to live. If you are waking up thinking that there's got to be more to your life than it is, man, believe that it is. Believe in your heart of hearts that it is. But to get to that life, you're going to have to jump. Now, I'll tell you why I call it jumping. See, God, when He created all of us, He gave every last one of us a gift at birth. He never created a soul without endowing them with a gift. You just got to quit looking at gifts as running, jumping, sing, and dance. It's more than that. It's if you know how to network, if you can connect dots, if you draw, if you teach. Some of y'all fry chicken better than anybody else, bake pie. Some of you cut hair, color hair. Some people do grass. I got a partner, man. Never wanted to go out with us because we stayed out too late. Come on, man, go out with. Now I got to get up early, Mom, cutting this Johnson grass. We kept laughing at this dude, cutting grass. How much they pay you? He got a landscaping company in Cleveland worth $4 million. Because all he do is cut grass. But he was gifted at it. I got a partner on a detail shop, make $800,000 a year, detailing cars. He got 6 mobile trucks running around. $800,000 a year. All he do is detail cars. That's his gift. That's what he loved to do. You've got to identify that gift. Now listen to me. When you see people in life, when you're standing on the cliff of life and you see people soaring by, when you see people soaring, going to exotic places, you hear about them doing wonderful things. Maybe you look up the street and your neighbor just gets a car every year, every 2 years. You know, how is he doing that? Have you ever thought, maybe this person right here has identified their gift and is living in their gift? Because your Bible says, this your Bible says your gift will make room for you. Your gift, not your education. You go get an education, that's nice. But if you don't use your gift, that education only gonna take you so far. I know a lot of people got degrees, man, they ain't even using them. It's your gift. But the only way for you to soar is you got to jump. You got to take that gift that's packed away on your back. You got to jump off that cliff and pull that cord. That gift opens up and provides the soar. If you don't ever use it, you're going to just go to work. And if you're getting up going to work on a job every day that you hate going to, that ain't living, man. You just existed. At one point in time, you ought to see what living's like. But the only way to see what living like, you got to jump. And here's the problem. Let me just be real with you. When you first jump, let me tell you something. Your parachute will not open right away. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you it did, but it don't. When you jump, it's not going to open right away.